Salutations, Legion of Doom. Welcome to Podcast of the Storm, where social awkward outcasts, crazy weirdos, and online nerds convene to talk and debate all things pop culture. With me, as always, is my co-host and the nerdy occultist, aka the Authenticator, Dalton L. Mortimer.
Good evening, everyone. We now return to your regularly scheduled podcast of the storm, not with 4 fucking days of delay because Brainstormer was dying.
Yeah, and like he said, I am your host. Last time I want to be the Brainstormer of Pop Culture. How's everyone doing tonight? Hello, Chrononauts and Dragon Turtle, and Ed.
Oh, good. Dragon Turtle made it. Apparently he was going through some IRL thing, but yeah, he made it. Good. And hello to Ed and Chrono as well.
Nudity.
I only drew special attention to Dragon Turtle because there was some drama apparently in his real life, and he wasn't sure if he was going to make it, but he did. So, yeah.
Sorry to hear that, Dragon Turtle.
I mean, yes, death generally tends to be inconvenient, but you might want to react just a little bit more to that.
Okay, so Chrononaut, nudity, sex, and beer not included.
No, unfortunately, if you want a live stream with blackjack and hookers, you're going to have to take it up with one bender bending of Rodriguez.
Okay, so I'll be honest. That's all right, Dragon Turtle. Honestly, I don't think this might be a relatively short stream. Honestly.
Yeah. Or it may not, depending on how much stupid that there happens to be in them thou hills.
Yes. Yeah, so yeah, we're just gonna. Well, okay, so just to preference, we do have articles. Like the first two articles are not ones that are going to be covered on their actual website, seem to be due to technical difficulties.
Yeah, Brainstormer's computer tends to be a potato, and therefore some things just refuse to load. And other things require purchasing, and fuck that noise.
Yeah.
So I cheat.
Yeah. So, but if you do actually want to read those articles, we have the actual links down below. So.
And I did not edit the text in any way other than cutting out the links and ads.
Yeah. So we're going to move to the first one, which I forget what. Hold on, I want to look this up. Like, look at where this came from again, just so like. Yeah, so gamers are terrible people, and we stop being okay with it. By Stacy Henley. I'm going to hold on. I need to check just to be sure because I forgot where this article came from. I believe it is thegamer.com. Yeah, it's from thegamer.com.
So, in other words, a website called gamer.com says that gamers are a terrible, horrible, really bad, no good thing.
Thegamer.com.
Oh, thegamer.com. Excuse me. Apparently, it is the platonic ideal of gamers themselves that are disavowing the very concept of gamers, because this is the world we find ourselves in, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean, I honestly don't have a problem with this computer. Honestly, it's old. Like, it's a 2009 model, and I've had it for a few years. You know, I got it cheap. It's working. I mean, it still works fine. Obviously, I can't update anything. Like the browser I'm using kind of needs an update, but I can't really update it. So
2009 would have been what, 13 years ago? So yeah, oof.
I mean, it still works fine, so I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, good for Brainstormer's potato of a computer for not malfunctioning, but nevertheless.
Well, this is back when things were actually built to last. So
that no, the 2000s was not. That trend went out the window sometime in the late 80s, early 90s.
I mean, it's still working, so someone's doing something right. Anyway, same with my laptop before it died. All right, okay. So yeah, this is "Gamers Are Terrible People and We Should Stop Being Okay with It" by Stacy Henley. This was published 6 days ago, so that would be July 4th.
I'm going to offer a contrary opinion, and that is that journalists are terrible people, and we should really stop being okay with it, especially entertainment journalists.
Yeah, true. So just full preference is that Don and I are not gamers. I am kind of a very, very loose, casual gamer. Like the last game I ever really played, like full on, was like a Call of Duty game. I think it was Advanced Warfare.
And I am kind of an old school retro, capital G gamer. I supported Gamergate when it happened. I wasn't as directly involved with it as I was with Comicsgate later on, mostly because I didn't know anyone personally in the Gamergate commentary sphere. But I did support Gamergate back when it happened, and I love me some retro games. The last game that I played that I remember really, really freaking enjoying was Cuphead, which apparently also had some Gamergate adjacent controversy about it, because you mean a game paid more attention to whether it was meritocratic than whether it abided by the appropriate framework, etc.
Right. Yeah, again, so we're more just looking on this as like kind of what we usually do with these type of articles is the stupidity of it than anything. So again, we're not technically gamers, so if someone has a problem with that, totally fine.
Well, again, I'm a retro gamer who supported Gamergate, but that's about as far as my gaming loyalties are concerned, because modern games are shit. And
totally.
People like this are 90% of the reason why.
Well, totally. It's also just because there's nothing really good coming out.
Yeah, and I don't have a PC on which to play games.
Yeah, and I'm a console guy. I tried playing one online game once.
Yeah, and I'm not good with the hand-eye coordination because disability. So controllers and I do not get along and never really have.
Yeah, honestly, the only online game I've ever played, which was an MMORPG, was DC Universe Online. And if anyone remembers that game, good on you.
Yeah, the only gaming console that I ever didn't want to break into a million pieces was the Wii, because I got very, very good with the Wii remote while we still had the Wii.
I'm an Xbox guy, always. I don't really have any type of antagonism towards PlayStation or the Wii or anything. It's just
I'm a big fan of Nintendo because, again, retro gamer.
Xbox 360 was the first gaming console I ever had. Like, it was ever given to me. So
yeah, my first gaming console was a PS2.
Well, okay, I wouldn't say it was my first because I did play on the PlayStation when I was younger. I actually played Kingdom Hearts and stuff. I was shit at that game, by the way. I think it was like the first game I ever actually played.
The first game I ever actually played was I think it was the third Crash Bandicoot game, because my grandma's boyfriend had a PS1, I think, or PS1 or PS2, and he loved Crash Bandicoot, so I would sit there and play Crash Bandicoot for hours and hours and hours.
I only ever played the racing game of Crash Bandicoot.
I miss Crash Bandicoot. I really need to see if there's a redux of Crash Bandicoot. I know they're planning on making a redux of the Crash Bandicoot games. I'm gonna have to see if I can find them.
No, they actually did. I'm sorry. This is total.
This is such a random gaming sidebar.
Okay, so before we move on, Dragon Cult, the way I see it, constructive criticism is never an attack. If what you say is true and you don't go out of your way to make an attack, they should thank you. Okay, so don't be attacked. Don't be antagonistic.
I reserve the right to be antagonistic in response to antagonism. And given the premise of this article is gamers as a group are terrible people, and we should stop being permissive of it. Call me crazy, but given also the fact that all segments of geek culture experience some overlap, and how cavalier they are with the use of the term toxic fandom, I'm going to stand with my gamer brothers because I'm not gonna be the protagonist of the first they came for the so and so's poem. First they came for the gamers, and I told them to go fuck themselves because I was at least tangentially related to gaming.
All right, fair enough.
That's my answer to that.
All right, fair enough.
Anyway, moving forward.
Yeah. Okay. Gamers have stepped up their usual brand of toxic harassment recently, and we need to admit they are real fans causing real problems.
Okay, two things. Number one, how do you define harassment and how do you define toxicity? Number two, unless you can provide me with a definition of either of those two things that actually meet with some degree of scrutiny, I refuse to acknowledge that anything gamers regularly do constitutes harassment or toxicity, any more than any other segment of the internet, at least. And here's another tip for you, love. Everyone on the internet gets harassed at some juncture. We're all under the instruction to get the fuck over it and move on with our lives, and most of us do. The only people who don't are moralistic twits who get a rise out of everyone by claiming special degrees of victimhood and then get sand in their nether regions whenever anyone has a problem with either their definition of that term harassment or what they provide as evidence that constitutes said harassment. But I will give this to you. Thank you for acknowledging there is no meaningful difference between toxic fandom and non-toxic fandom. The gamers who you don't like are still gamers. The fans you don't like are still fans. And if we're being entirely honest with ourselves, the majority of the allegedly toxic fandom are the fans who hold their fandoms to some degree of meritocracy, i.e., for all intents and purposes, the real fans. And no, I'm not apologizing for that.
Right.
Moving on.
I mean, I can kind of understand the quote-unquote toxicity when it comes to like those kind of people that like play the online portion, like multiplayer, which I actually did when I was pretty younger, but I'm sure everyone did. Is like they sort of like, I guess, rage quit, if anyone remembers that.
Yeah.
Dude, I will not lie. I had fucking fits when I was trying to play a fucking match of Call of Duty and getting my ass just kicked.
Yes, and here's the thing that the entertainment news or entertainment journalism commentary will never ever say that genuine geeks and nerds will say. That is the correct response when you are a noob getting your ass handed to you. You are supposed to rage quit until you can get better.
Yeah,
that is the gamer circle of life, there, my friend.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I never got good. I am what people would call fucking casual. So.
Yes, too. Your mother smelled of elderberries, and I throw a rotting skunk in your general direction. Now go away, or I shall taunt you a second time.
Maybe.
Monty Python reference.
Yeah, no, I remember. Anyway, moving on.
Yes.
God damn. There are a lot of people who play video games that balk at the idea of being called a gamer. I work for a website literally called The Gamer, and I feel the same way. Also, yes, The Gamer, no spaces. Gaming is one of the most popular hobbies in the world, and the representation on screen in development studios and in journalism is more diverse than ever. Um, okay, okay. The overall kind of face value, sure, but there isn't really a diverse in terms of beliefs or
worldview, ideology, freedom of thought, diversity of thinking. These are the kind of diversity that people are generally missing. And also, diversity is immaterial. Unless you can make the case that it genuinely improves the story or the playability of the game. I.e., does it correlate with anything resembling meritocracy, or will we end up having to tell you to get fucked? This is the problem that modern day game journalists have. They didn't used to have, because it used to be people like Jack Thompson saying that games had to be quote unquote moral to be allowed to continue existing. Um, Unfortunately, though, because the gamer journalists and gamers of yesteryear had the intellectual wherewithal to tell Jack Thompson to go fuck himself, as well he should, they got it into their heads that when they moralize and pomp and circumstance about games, they are doing it for the right reasons, and therefore they are justified in doing so. Unfortunately for the games journalists, however, the gamers still remain the community that does not like being moralized to whatever or whatsoever, and therefore tells moralism and moralistic preening to get fucked. As well it should, do you see? And diversity is the new, especially the acronym diversity, equity, and inclusion, or diversity, inclusion, and equity, if you phrase it in the way Jordan Peterson likes you to phrase it, is the new version of what used to be called good Christian values. And in any case, the answer is no. Fuck your morality, it has no place in a game space. Unfortunately for you, dear, you don't like that response remains consistent when it's your morality, because you want to believe in your heart of hearts that even though you're being moralistic, even though you're preening, even though you're declaring shit from on high as though you have revealed authority, you want to believe that by virtue of um its different wording, that your morality is different than the Christian morality, functionally or mechanically, and it isn't. So, regardless of the MacGuffins you put into the moral Mad Lib paragraph, the correct answer to moralism by gamers has been and will always continue to be, your morality has no place here, go fuck yourself. And as far as I'm concerned, praise Keck for that is the right answer. Moving on.
I'm back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry, I had to just so people have context. My throat was like getting really scratchy, so I went to like get some honey for it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, I don't really like the taste of honey.
One intellectually dishonest bit of sacrilege at a time here. Let's focus on the stupid thing the journalist is saying before I have to give you a boot to the head for not liking honey.
No, my reason is like kind of the taste. It's like it's kind of like syrup, but like less sweet.
I think what it is you've just never had good honey. I knew of someone in school. He used to actually a friend of mine when we were in like fucking kindergarten. Jesus, that was a long time ago. Who his dad was a beekeeper, and so we got to occasionally experience fresh honey. And let me tell you, once you've had the good shit, the store-bought shit is terrible by comparison.
Yeah, well, it's all I can get, so.
Yeah, you city slicker bastard. See, living in the middle of nowhere has its advantages sometimes.
Yeah, also being trailer park trash. So.
I live in a double wide that's in the middle of nowhere. There is no trailer park anywhere near here, and you can fuck off.
Okay, so yeah, moving on, right?
Yeah, moving on.
All right. In the boardroom, not so much, but hey, nobody's perfect. There are a huge range of games to play and characters in them, and yet nobody wants to be a gamer. Who can blame them? This week has shown that gamers are the worst, and it's difficult to know how to stop it. Okay.
They said on a website literally called The Gamer. Do you see the blatant cognitive dissonance that must invariably be swallowing you like a fucking sinkhole? You rage.
Oh. I still have some chicken. Oh, no, I do. Actually, I do have chicken soup. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, moving on.
Okay. There are more general gamer elements that have become so acceptable we barely even register them. I wrote last year when a female Valorant streamer was told to go back to Halo, despite go back to Valorant being the usual sexist call out, that it's basically impossible for women to play a game without being told it's not for them.
Okay, it's in no way sexist. It's meritocratic, my dear. Everyone gets called out for being a noob as and when they demonstrate that they are a fucking noob. If you are playing any major AAA game, regardless of your gender, people will say things along the lines of stop being a bitch or go back to cell phone games or something to that effect. Because gamer spaces inherently involve what's known as shit testing, i.e., rites of passage that are determined by one's skill at the game in question. And if you can't meet those criteria, you will get mocked for it. But it's not usually a negative thing. It's usually an invitation, albeit a very abrasive one, to, and this is very often the phrasing, get good or fuck off. Because if you are not good enough or coordinated enough to be in this gaming space, you will ruin the enjoyment for everyone else in that space by being not good and thereby dragging down everyone else's fun. And it's very selfish of you to do that. So, in other words, get good or fuck off. Moving on.
Yeah. The exceptions are the less combat-focused games like Animal Crossing, although many toxic gamers will tell you they're not real games anyway. I mean, any game really is a game, so
Well, yeah, but the implicit point in that is there are games that require a greater level of skill or a greater level of technical proficiency to engage with, and a greater sort of geekdom for games to get involved with.
Yeah,
that's why the delineation.
Yeah,
it doesn't at the core make sense, but there is at least a sensible implication somewhere in the vicinity there.
True. To be fair, I can never really play like those games that are super in depth with their mechanics, like a Metal Gear Solid game. And don't get me wrong, I actually like those games mainly for like the story and stuff for it.
Yeah.
But I could not ever play play it because I'll be honest, I've never like full transparency here. I have never finished a game at all. Like I think the closest one was Batman Arkham Knight, but I never finished the Riddler challenges, and I'm sure everyone here can agree that the Riddler challenges in the Batman Arkham games, specifically Arkham Knight, are just a fucking...
Well, I mean, it's a good representation of the Riddler, so of course they're going to be difficult.
No, it's not even that. Like they're almost absurd and story-wise don't really make sense.
Yeah, I agree with you, but and I have a similar thing, although largely due to the fact that I have spastic diaplegic cerebral palsy, so my hand-eye coordination is by its very nature fucked. So that is my excuse. Computer or gaming controllers and I don't get along because my hands just don't like to cooperate most of the time.
Okay, so Durangel actually brings up an interesting question, so I actually want to bring this one up. So, I think by less combat focused, you Dalton, mean games without a clear lose condition. Forget dying. Does failing at something mean anything in Animal Crossing?
I don't think it has much to do with that. I think it's just that I get what you're saying, and maybe that does have something to do with it, but I don't think it's a brass tacks like game theory problem. I think it's just there's more skill both put into creating a AAA game and a certain level of more skill and devotion and, for lack of a better word, geekery that is required from the player.
No, okay, it wasn't a question for you, Don. Sorry, I misread that. I thought you misspelled authenticator, or was shortening it or something. My bad, Dragon. Meant for the author of the article. That's my bad. I misread that. That's my bad.
Oh, okay. Then I rescind my previous statement, I guess, then.
Okay, yeah. Again, my bad. I totally misread that. Now I feel like an asshole. Fuck. All right. Okay, we're gonna read a little bit more, and then I'm gonna try to cover the comments that we.
Yeah. Again, this is why we institute the beginning, middle, and end thing, because otherwise we get too bogged down in the chat.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on, or.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. It's war games. The only way to win is not to play. I've never actually seen that movie.
I think they might have been referring to actual war games, unless they are making a reference to the movie, but I didn't think they were making a reference to the movie.
Whatever. There are more general gamer elements that have become so acceptable. Oh no, I read that. My bad. No, wait, did I?
You did.
Oh, I think I missed a line, man.
Yeah, you forgot to scroll up when you were done reading is what happened there.
Yeah, my bad. Okay. The exceptions are the less combat focused. No, did I already read that?
No.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The exceptions are the less combat focused games like Animal Crossing, although many toxic gamers will tell you they're not real games anyway. It's
one. Oh wait, no, I think we did read that part.
Okay. God damn it.
That was how we got into the Animal Crossing thing to begin with.
Okay. So anything to really add, or?
No. Moving forward.
Okay. Then there's the rampant racism in gaming communities. Oh my god. That was said. That was said.
Uh-huh. These people still haven't gotten over Gamergate or even began to understand what Gamergate was even about.
Let me continue though, just so like we have
Yes.
more context.
Finish the sentence so we actually have something to respond to
No,
other than just cringe.
that was a sentence, but I feel like we need more context.
Yeah, context, please.
Yeah. PewDiePie remains one of the most recognizable figures in gaming despite his use of the N-word, which itself has been memed as a gamer moment.
Okay,
He said it like once on a stream, simply.
Yes, and the reason why this person even knows about that is because the Washington Post slandered PewDiePie over it. He said the N-word one time, and he didn't say it derogatorily referring to black people. He said it in a heat of the moment in the same way some people use the word cunt.
Yeah, and dude, I'm fairly certain that a lot of gamers say that fucking word without the racial context to it.
Yes, they do. And that's what this person is getting at. They assume that the reason why people are okay with saying that is because racism itself is ubiquitous among gamers, rather than the actual answer, which is indifference is high among gamers to that word. Because again, gaming spaces are spaces where morality is mostly irrelevant, unless it involves doxing or swatting or any number of other things that you might do to someone in real life because you're losing to them in a game or some shit, which is frowned upon, by the way. That's the easiest way for a gaming YouTuber, for example, to lose cred, is when they engage in duplicitous, for lack of a better word. And I can say this because I actually am one, faggotry.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
IShowSpeed might have been permabanned from Twitch, but his violently sexist and obnoxiously offensive style of streaming has earned him a huge, impressionable audience.
Okay.
I don't know who that is.
PewDiePie?
No, IShowSpeed.
I don't know either. But again, how do you define sexism and how do you define racism? Because what you are describing is people's refusal to moralistically give a fuck about those things. And indifference is a valid response to those things. Rather than let them be artifacts of fear or hysteria or moral outrage, the correct answer to defang racism, refuse to give a fuck about it. The correct answer to defame sexism, refuse to give a fuck about it. Because when even women can call each other cunts without getting their panties into a bunch over it, the word cunt loses its power. Same thing with the N word, which I am not even going to attempt to say because I will not get away with it. But that's neither here nor there. But this is the fundamental issue with a lot of these people who still prefer to get morally outraged by these things. They don't understand the principle, and then they sometimes do selectively, but this is neither here nor there. They don't understand the principle that in order to defang and depower a morally heinous thing, the correct answer is often a mixture of deliberate indifference and mockery, because mockery deflates the shit out of the power of these negative things. Just like Mel Brooks, the Jewish Holocaust survivor, made a living off of making fun of Nazis as and when he could get the fuck away with it, because he understood the notion that the easiest way to make sure that the Nazi regime never happens again is to mock it to hell and back, because no one wants to engage in something they find to be willfully absurd. They will, however, sometimes engage with something that they fear, because facing your fears or making a friend of the things you fear is generally a sign of personal growth. So instead of making Nazism or racism or sexism an object of fear and moralistic hysteria, they make it artifacts of mockery and deliberate indifference, because that actually will defang the power of these things. But because you are moralistic twits who need literally everything in the universe to cater to your morality and nothing the fuck else, you don't understand the notion that mockery deflates the power of things, unless, of course, that mockery is being directed at you or your sacred cows, in which case you will spontaneously remember that and therefore blame gamer words for when people are driven to suicide on social media or something. But it's funny how, despite the fact that that is also one of the many arrows in the quiver that is your argument, you will spontaneously forget it when people mock bad things. You would think, knowing full well how destructive mockery can be to people and things, you would be in favor of as much mockery of bad things as you possibly could get. But no, because humor occasionally has a positive charge, you have created this construct in your heads that by making a joke about something, we're trying to transplant the positive charge of the joke the onto the subject matter rather than making the subject matter the butt of the joke so as to mock it and deflate its power. Idiots.
Yep. All right. 2 more paragraphs and then we'll cover comments. All right. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
FaZe Clan, one of the most well-known organizations in gaming, just banned another member for using the N-word. I've lost count of how often this has happened between all the different organizations. Gaming's representation is getting better, but the stage is set for the audience to get even worse. We've just written off a larger corner of the community as sexist and racist. In labeling them as gamers, we are tactically endorsing their behavior.
Okay.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
It's just a thing gamers do, and that's the way it's always going to be, right? Okay, go.
Okay. The first problem with your supposition here is you think you are in a position to judge and arbitrate who may and may not use the word gamer. And you also think you can arbitrate what secondary meanings or secondary validity the term gamer can have, as though it isn't simply a functional word based on a collection of actions and identities people choose to adopt of their own free fucking will for their own free fucking reasons and by their own free fucking decision making. This is the problem. You are not the moral arbiter of culture. No matter how much you wish to be, you cannot just declare someone to someone. You can't use that word that describes a thing you do anymore because you're an immoral person. It'd be like in the Middle Ages if the Inquisition walked up to a blacksmith, accused him of heresy, and then went, despite the fact that you have all the skills and capabilities and identities of a blacksmith, we hereby morally revoke your right to call yourself a blacksmith in the name of God or some shit. That's effectively what you're doing. It's you have sinned against social justice, and therefore you don't get to call yourself this thing that is a descriptive term for you anymore. The problem being, you don't and never had the moral authority or the moral positioning to arbitrate who may and may not fucking call themselves a gamer, darling. And it is just a thing that people do because there is no moral harm being perpetrated here. There is no violation of the classical liberal harm principle going on here. The only harm that is occurring is the harm to the concept of racism and the concept of sexism being perpetrated by using it cavalierly and mocking the shit out of it. Which you would think your ideology in particular would be in favor of, because sexism and racism is supposed to be the things you want to end. Well, I'm sorry, darling, but getting moralistically supercharged and moralistically hysterical about it is not actually ending those things. It is exacerbating and metastasizing those things into ever greater magnitudes of cancer. If you want to truly get rid of sexism and racism, mock the shit out of them. That will genuinely make them so absurd that no one would ever willingly engage in them. And then once they're so absurd that no one would willingly engage in them, people will, surprise, surprise, stop engaging with them. The argument of you shouldn't do this because it's immoral is nowhere near as persuasive as you shouldn't do that because it's absurd and uncool. This is something that moralists of all stripes, whether it's the fundamentalist Christian tradcons or the critical theory Frankfurt School social justice warriors, they need to get it through their head that something being immoral is not a persuasive argument. Something being absurd and uncool, however, is a persuasive argument. However, you can't control what's cool because you want moral and cool to be the same thing, and they never will be. No matter how much you try to force that square peg through that round hole, the more you try to force it, the more people will rebel against being forced. Because cool is something people arrive at by their own criteria and by their own merit. Force, especially moral force, is almost deliberately contrary to cool. We used to understand this back in the 90s. They used to talk about this on shows like Daria all the fucking time. And yet, despite the fact that you people, and by you people I mean entertainment journalists, love the shit out of shows like Daria, you spontaneously forgot everything she taught you because you're the ones in power now. Because you are the new establishment, you all of a sudden forget all those reasons you used to have when you were a teenager for hating the fucking establishment. It's sad and pathetic and beneath contempt, frankly. Moving on.
Yep. On to the more specific incidents, keeping in mind that the longer we allow the gamers are at it again mindset to remain, the longer we are accepting that things like this are just a regular part of one of the planet's most popular pastimes.
You don't get to decide what should and should not be allowed. No one elected you. No one gave you this authority. You just declare it from on high because you represent the superior morality. Well, once again, fuck your morality, much like the Wicked Witch of the West in Munchkinland. You have no power here. Now be gone before someone drops a house on you. And for house, in this case, read memes and kex, because you will be mocked mercilessly. Because this is the internet, and that is how we drop houses on people. We mock them mercilessly and pillory them in memes. Praise Keck, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, so now we're going to cover the comments right now.
Mm-hmm.
We actually missed a lot since 8:14, so. Alright, Dragon Turtle. All of geek, nerd, and internet culture are actively being sieged. They were one of the first targets and have been on the front line ever since. P.S. You know my philosophy on that. The inverted golden rule: treat others how they treat you. Nothing off limits short of dragging innocent people into it. And even then, when the stakes are serious, like how these people are trying to either destroy or end people's lives, sometimes collateral damage is unavoidable and defeat is unacceptable. This is why I hate things going mainstream. It always undergoes a few changes that make it shit. I feel like a few of those were like not related to each other, but
yeah, no, they were separate comments about separate things. I disagree. The only way to win the rule fight, as you would, the golden rule fight, Dragon Turtle, is to refuse to even acknowledge the other person's rule set as and when the other person's rule set makes no sense. Because again, the correct answer to moralizing is not counter-moralizing, it's mockery. It's I refuse to give your new norms, your new mores any power over me whatsoever because they're logically inconsistent and absurd. Fuck off with them.
Right. The whole mainstream thing, yeah, I could kind of agree with that, mainly with what we've seen with like Moon Knights and
yeah. the only counterpoint I would make to that is it doesn't have to be that way. It's just people's incompetence that makes it that way.
Yeah, that's actually very true. Okay, diversity, inclusion, equity, die. They want you to die. How fitting an acronym.
Well, no, they want ideas to die because they don't care about physical reality or people. They believe in their heart of hearts the world is made entirely of ideas. So that's why they try to control culture and they try to control ideas because they genuinely think that if they work hard enough to control and shape the ideas that the world runs by, they can actually change how the world runs.
Right. Still fairly accurate.
Yeah, no, it is no, it's still a meaningful observation. I'm just saying, don't ever forget that the people you're dealing with are aristocratic fucknobs who don't believe that physical reality matters. They believe ideas matter. That's why they try to control ideas and culture so badly.
Okay. Lost my place there for a second. Okay. Completely off topic. I think during Pride Month one year, they will rename themselves the Gamer.
There's already a website called that.
Oh my god.
Yep, nope. It already exists. And I hate it. I kill it with fire. Kill it with soul fire as far as I'm concerned. And
Okay,
I'm not interested in file preferences.
Was okay, so I think this was when we were talking about the part of like females, go back to Halo, go back to Valorant, yada yada, right?
Mm-hmm.
This conversation between Dragontail and Ed Brewer. Dudes get it worse, I'd say, Ed Brewer. Girls are expected to suck. Dudes need to be 1% or fuck off. If anything, it's proven effect for women. Sometimes even people with female avatars get special treatment.
Yeah, no, it's just another kind of gynocentrism. Since women are already considered pure regardless of what they do, they have to just show basic competence and then everyone falls at their feet like they're goddesses. But men have to be one of the 1% of 1% before anyone will even look sideways at them. However, I don't want to play the game of men get it worse, women get it worse because frankly, I've always been operating on the assumption of men and women get it differently. That doesn't necessarily mean that either one of them is worse. There are ways in which men genuinely do suffer more than women do currently in our civilization, and I've pointed out those when they've come up. But I don't want this to become Oppression Olympics on the grounds that I don't think Oppression Olympics is a thing that should exist at all. I don't agree with Hegel's oppressor oppressed dynamic or thesis antithesis dichotomy. It's a false dichotomy, and every fiber of my inner philosopher wants to throw false dichotomies out the fucking window. Okay. The problem is, because of people like Hegel, Marx, and Engels, and the founders of the Frankfurt School, the Michel Foucaults, the Jean-Paul Sartres, the Jacques Derridas, and so on, and of course the Marcel Duchamps. Because of those sorts of people, we haven't been able to defenestrate Hegel's false dichotomy for at least a century. And many, many other philosophies have taken Hegel's thesis antithesis dichotomy as a given and based their entire philosophies on it, which means dozens of philosophies have had at their core a false dichotomy, which leads to, unsurprisingly, really, really shitty systems. Because when you base an entire worldview on a false dichotomy, the results you will get will break down horribly vis-a-vis every attempt to employ Marxism in the world, every attempt by the Frankfurt School or the postmodernists or the Dadaists to do anything relating to art, etc., etc. This is exactly the problem. We should have laughed Hegel out of court when he said his thesis antithesis historical dialectic, and we should have laughed Marx and Engels out of court when they said bourgeoisie and proletariat false dichotomy, and we should have laughed the Frankfurt School out of court when it said there is no intrinsic value. Everything is just normative consensus. Therefore, we must change the normative consensus to free the world. We should have laughed them out of court, but we didn't for some fucking reason. And now here we are.
Right. Okay. I forget that sometimes these guys really like to talk in the comments, and that's not an insult.
Yeah, they chit chat with each other in the comments sometimes when we're off doing our thing.
Yeah. Again, that's not an insult to you guys. It's just when we try to do this,
we're not used to having people comment on this regularly, so it's interesting when it happens.
It's weird, yeah. Okay. Ed Brewer to like the comment about like the female avatars thing. Yes, dudes will simp for an avatar. I mean, that's actually pretty evident these days with like the VTubers thing.
Yep.
Although I will say this, I find some of them pretty cool and funny.
I mean, I have no leg to stand on whatsoever here because I have an addiction to romantic gay ASMR ASMR that would be embarrassing if I didn't embrace it wholeheartedly.
Right, but I mean, the thing that kind of weirds me out about the VTuber situation is just often how both the females and the male VTubers is how
explicitly feminine they are.
No, the very just how do I say it? I'm gonna sound like a prude to say it, but how like kind of almost over sexualized they are.
Oh, the like over the top seduction thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like honestly, some of them are cool because like they're just like they act like themselves, regular
people. Yeah, but there are many VTubers and many ASMR channels that are very over the top, almost parodies of themselves. Yeah. And I agree. Sometimes it can be kind of creepy.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Anyway. Okay, I'm just gonna. Unfortunately, guys, I am gonna skip a couple of these just because, for time's sake, and I do want to get through this article. So if I do miss a comment that you wanted me to cover, let me know. Okay, so I'm just. Okay, where to? Okay. The word isn't racist. Who says it is? Somehow, says Ed Brewer. Then Jagged Turtle. It isn't just that gamers are immoral or something. It's that you don't have a race, sex, or age on the internet unless you dox yourself. That and gamers realize it's just words.
Well, it's the fact that gamers are more interested in being gamers than they are in being moral serfs of the social justice worldview. And anything that refuses actively to be serfs of the social justice. Okay, one of the reasons why social justice types hate geek culture so much is actually when they first started infiltrating geek culture, they thought they would be able to subsume geek culture under the rubric of social justice. They thought that geeks were oppressed because they essentially believed that the world operates like an 80s movie. They thought that since gamers were, air quotes, oppressed, they would welcome social justice wholesale because social justice is the ideology that claims to speak for the oppressed. However, because geeks and I almost said geeks and gamers, which no, but because geeks are focused on things like passion, intellect, and meritocracy, they don't have any time for the oppression bullshit. Their approach to someone calling them a nerd is not "how dare you call me that." It's "fuck yes, I'm a nerd," and if you have a problem with that, you can go fuck yourself. That which as far as I'm concerned is the correct response to these issues. The correct response to these issues is not to become some simpering oppressed little twit. It's to embrace what you are to its highest degree and come what may. But because geeks generally have that sort of raison d'etre, the fact that they're proud of their geekery, they're not ashamed of it, and they don't use it as a shield or a sword for political and moral reasons. They love geek shit because they unironically love geek shit. That confused the fuck out of the social justice warriors because they only see hobbies or interests or vectors of culture as means to an end. I.e., I only like this thing because I'm oppressed. I only believe this because I'm oppressed. I only do this, that, or the other because I'm oppressed. If I weren't, then I would shun all these things. But gamers see the value of the but geeks and or gamers see the value of the things that they like being in the things themselves, i.e., the value in comics is not that I like them. The value in comics that makes me like them is inherent to comics themselves, etc. And that's why they hate geeks so much because social justice basically rolled out the red carpet for come to us geeks, come to us nerds, find your place in the new progressive stack we're building. You can finally have all the power over those nasty jocks that always bullied you. You can finally find your place in the hierarchies of oppression and so on and so forth. And geeks were just like, okay, but I don't consider myself oppressed. I consider everyone else to be an idiot because everyone else is an idiot. Because that's the main difference between a minority that is in favor of social justice and the people who own their own shit and move on with their lives. When social justice tells certain people you're oppressed and that means you get special privileges, some people sign up for that shit. But people who have self-respect and more so have respect for the things they like for their own reasons say, no, I'm not the wrong one here. I'm not the one missing out. I'm not the oppressed one. You guys are all too stupid to see how awesome this thing I like is. And one day I'm going to show you. And that's always been the geek credo. The geek credo is not, stop bullying me, you stupid jock. The geek credo is, you're wrong to bully me for this, and one day I'm going to show you how awesome this is. And that's why we get, multi-million dollar geek franchises, and why people like Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg are some of the richest people in the world, because the correct response to being bullied, if you're a nerd, is not, I'm gonna flip the script on you one day and you'll see. It's, I pity you because you're missing out on all this awesome shit, and one day I'll show you. And so they do. Yeah. But that in short is why social justice both wants geek culture under its rubric so bad, but also hates it because they rolled out the social justice rainbow carpet, and geek culture was like, "What the fuck are you doing? We're not oppressed. Everyone else is oppressed because they're too stupid to see how awesome this shit is." Which is the self-respecting response, but they don't like that geeks have self-respect because, ironically, social justice warriors are just very self-hating traditionalists. They genuinely do think that there's no value in geek culture aside from as a weapon. But geeks don't think that. They don't see geek culture as a weapon. They see geek culture as something they have that other people don't have. Moving on, though.
Right. Okay. So I am going to skip a few comments here just because, like, you guys did say some stuff while we were answering them. So to Dragon Turtle, to win the rule fight, people need consequences for their actions. For instance, if one side is engaging in political violence, we need a reminder of why we tried to end that. Then there's I believe this is a secondary part of it. And they still hate wrong. Oh no, that's for the DIE acronym thing.
Ed said something most recently. The reason they came up with the terms toxic fandom and incels, Ed, is because they wanted to be able to call people nerds without actually calling people nerds, because they still want to one day co-opt nerd culture. They still intend to do that. So they have to come up with a term for all the genuine nerds who don't like social justice. So they came up with incel and toxic fandom to basically append all of the negative stereotypes of nerd culture onto, while still leaving nerd culture open to one day be conquered by social justice. That's why they eventually came up with incel and toxic fandom. It's a way to demonize the real nerds for not kissing the feet of the social justice saviors when they came through converting.
Yeah. Okay. So. All right. Giant Turtle again to the win the rule fight. People need consequences for their actions. For instance, if one side is engaging in political violence, we need a reminder of why we tried to end that.
Sorry, say that again. I didn't catch that. I was reading ahead.
Okay. To win, which I assume is W-I-N and not what he spelled. Role fights, people need consequences for their actions. For instance, if one side is engaged,
you read that already.
Yeah, I don't think you answered it. Is the thing. So
it's just a matter of this is the thing. The consequences for their actions come organically. We don't have to institute consequences. They're already making themselves miserable. And they're already losing, because inherently the idea that there is no such thing as meritocracy, there is no such thing as objective or intersubjective value, and that we can just make whatever we want to make popular because we control what popularity is false. Look at recently Lightyear. They thought they had an absolute unvarnished winner with that because it was tied to the Toy Story franchise, and it had references to Buzz Lightyear in it. So they thought they had a inarguable winner there, but because the idea of there is no merit to this, so we can change whatever we want was employed, and the this is nothing but a means to an end aspect was also employed, i.e., by pushing ideology in it rather than actually telling a story. Lightyear failed horribly. We don't need to institute consequences for them because they already reap their actions create their own rewards. And our actions create our own rewards, which is going to result in one day their hierarchy is going to come crashing down around them. They're going to cry out in despair, and meanwhile the rest of us will carry on building civilization and sweeping up all the broken pieces of their artifice. I don't think we need to force the issue any further than reality already will. But anyway, moving on.
Right. Okay. All right. So I'm just gonna skip a few of these things. I'm sorry, guys. I do want to get back to this article, finish it, so we can move on. So.
Because we still have another one of these to go through.
Actually, we got more than that. But okay. I think this was my comment on the whole VTubers thing. There are two types of ASMR: realist ASMR and attractive women having an excuse to be on camera.
Yeah, but that's the difference between VTubers and ASMR, though. And to be fair, I don't know much about the female ASMR because the ASMR that I watch is gay. Or to use the proper term, male for male or M for M, for anyone that
really
feels like, yeah.
I wouldn't have pegged you for that.
Oh, you. I'm super. Thanks for asking.
Please don't do that, man. One, I feel like you die inside when you do that.
A little bit, but it is worth it for the joke.
All right. Okay. So, okay. Giant Turtle. That so embodies how they think. I only embrace this because of my situation, but would abandon it as soon as I get into a better one or the winds of culture change.
Yep. And that's one of the reasons why I hate Movie Bob, because that apparently is how he always saw geek culture. He always saw embracing geek culture as a means to get back at the jocks who bullied him when he was a kid. But as soon as Gamergate happened, as soon as the various anti-social justice fandom movements happened, he came out and weaponized his own knowledge of geek culture against his fellows and made the argument of, why do you people treat this like it's sincere or like it's inherently meaningful? Don't you see that it's only a means to a cultural end? And I'm like, no, Bob, no, that's not how geeks think at all. That's the exact opposite of how geeks think. And fuck you for being a traitor, because there was a time before Trump and before Gamergate where Bob was actually a fairly sincere geek, or at least he was comfortable enough in his role that he was able to affect being a sincere geek. But as soon as Gamergate happened, and as soon as Trump got elected, it ate away at whatever remained of his self-respect, and now he treats geek culture as a means to an end rather than an end in itself. And I will not tolerate that shit. I will oppose that mindset until my last breath. Whether it's the TradCon family values types doing it, or it's the critical theory Frankfurt School infused social justice warriors doing it. Art is not a means to an end. The value of art is not as some kind of utilitarian humanistic gobbledygook. It's contained in the things themselves, and the value of those things is what moves people to pay attention to it. We don't make art meaningful. Art is meaningful, and we react to that meaning. And I will die with that axiom strangling my brain if I have to. Moving on.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Back to the article. A new Monkey Island game was given a full reveal recently, which included a brand new art style. I don't know what Monkey Island is.
I vaguely remember what that is, but I don't know enough about it to say so.
Okay. I don't really like it. Oh no, I'll be honest, I don't really like it. Brand new. Okay, so brand new art. Okay. Guybrush looks a bit like a rotten banana, and the whole thing reminds me of one of those British '90s cartoons I resented being made to watch, when all I wanted was the Americana of The Simpsons, Rugrats, and Doug.
Okay, you know what? I will give you that, because that is actually you being patriotic, kind of. You actively chose what you define as Americana over what you define as foreign. That's very rare for an SJW to do.
I still have no idea what they're talking about, though.
No, I still only have a vague recollection of what Monkey Island is, but I'll give it to them. That seems like, and I hesitate to say this because I know a bunch of gender studies teachers are going to lose their wings, but that seems like a sincere and human argument rather than an ideological and moralistic shit test. Gasp, shock, horror. It can still be done occasionally. Who knew?
Anyway, moving on.
Yep, moving on.
My reaction to this art style, though, has been to shrug and think, I don't really like that. It was not to send threatening messages to the development team. Unfortunately, not everyone shared my view. When anecdotally, there's something like 60-40 split in favor of liking the new direction versus hating it. The 40% against it seem to have shit themselves in mass and thrown the soiled underwear at Ron Gilbert's head.
Okay, here's the difference, and here's the variable you're not considering, darling. You don't have any particular investment in the Monkey Island franchise, whatever the Monkey Island franchise is. The people who you're describing do have an investment in that thing. And when you care about something deep and hard and in the core of your being, when it has a formative impact on you, and someone comes along to subvert it, quote unquote, for moral and socio-political reasons, quote unquote, that pisses you off. It's like someone taking your favorite teddy bear from when you were a child and burning it in front of your eyes for some goddamn reason and expecting you to be happy while you watch.
Oh, okay. I think I've seen this before. I just looked it up.
Sorry, I'm in the process of destroying multiverses again because when I said that, I got a mental image of someone doing that to me, and I want to destroy every multiverse where that happened.
Okay, I've heard about this game. It's like a point and click adventure. It's actually made by LucasArts originally.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think was handled by Telltale as well. I don't really have anything to say because, again, I'm not that well versed in it. So,
yeah, I don't have any investment in Monkey Island in particular. I'm just speaking because I can empathize with what those fans of Monkey Island must be thinking because I know how it feels when someone takes something that I love and rapes it over a barrel while I watch and then expects me to thank them for it.
mm-hmm.
And the answer is no. The answer is fuck you. The answer is go die in a fire. So I can imagine that there are some Monkey Island fans who feel the same way about this thing.
I do also want to say, like, I think what she says is threatening messages to the development team. I'm sure there were like a very minimal few, like one, maybe three at most.
Yeah, once again, I have to ask the question: how the hell and by what criteria are you defining threatening messages?
Yeah, and yeah, defining.
And are you aware that other people might have a different definition of that term from you? Because it very much seems like people just de facto assume A, that their definition is correct, B, that there could possibly be no other definitions, and C, that everyone must think the same way they think, or otherwise they must be stupid / evil / ignorant.
Right. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, moving on.
Right. This, unfortunately, is a rather common form of gamer rage. God of War Ragnarok fans have been far more creative. God of War is the biggest game yet to release this year, but it currently has no release date, and fans are salivating over one. Fans who are definitely going to buy this game day one are currently desperate to see an advert for it. I've used fans repeatedly here because I have seen the argument that these people are not true God of War fans. These people have the collector's editions, the tattoos and custom controllers, the posters, the action figures, the framed artwork of quotes. They are bigger fans than you. They are the biggest fans on the planet. This is what mainstream gaming is, and we have to be honest about it, okay?
Okay, that I will give you. That is a step in the right direction because normally the correct answer is there are no criteria. The correct moral answer from these people seems to be there are no criteria that make someone a bigger fan of anything than someone else. So saying that there is a bad thing, Herder. But no, good for you, darling, for acknowledging that there is actually a gradation of fans. Like for example, and I'm gonna flash my gang signs here. I am probably one of the top 10 Doctor Strange fans or mystical comic book fans at least that makes content about it on the planet. And I only say that I'm in the top 10 and not the top 5 because I know at least 3 people who are bigger Doctor Strange fans than me. One of whom is called Sanctum Blog, who is and everyone should follow him on Twitter if you haven't already, because he's a genuinely cool dude. But he is the world's most renowned collector of Doctor Strange comics and memorabilia out there, and he has put me to shame on a couple occasions with his knowledge of comics. Granted, we've also had many disagreements over the years, and he and I have come apart amicably every time. Like, for example, I like the fact that Doctor Strange's cloak in the MCU is sentient or sapient, and he didn't like it originally. I think though I think I might have won that argument though, because I think he eventually came around to it. And I, for example, love the character of Renfro, and I was happy to see him in Doctor Strange too. But for some reason, Sanctum Blog has a hate boner for Renfro for whatever reason, and I've never really asked him what his reasons are, but I assume he has perfectly legitimate reasons. But point being, I am at least in the top 10 most vocal and active Doctor Strange fans on the internet, and I will fight anyone who claims otherwise. So to say that someone who became a fan of Doctor Strange just after the 2016 movie, or doesn't know any versions of Doctor Strange outside of Benedict Cumberbatch, is equal to me in terms of Doctor Strange fandom is false. And I'm not even stroking my own ego here. It's just I have been a fan of this character for decades, bearing in mind I'm only 27 or 26, going to be 27 this month though. And I have an entire shelf on one of my bookcases that just devoted to Doctor Strange trades. So I don't want to hear it. But but the long and the short of it is, good for you, person who wrote this article, for at least acknowledging that there is a gradation there, because so many people refuse to acknowledge any kind of hierarchy or gradation or meritocracy among fans, which is bullshit. And most sincere fans don't like that shit. They don't like hipsters claiming a lifelong fandom of something when they just got into it 5 minutes ago because of the movies or some other such thing. For example, someone who's played every single Halo game ever made and has several pieces of Halo merchandise, who hates the show because it's not an accurate representation of the material, will probably laugh hysterically at someone who got into Halo just from the show and doesn't understand what's wrong with it. Just like I laugh whenever I say Benedict Cumberbatch isn't a very good portrayal of Doctor Strange, and people look at me like I've just grown a second head or something. And I'm like, and usually my response is, let me show you an episode of the 90s Spider-Man animated series with John Vernon as Doctor Strange, and you'll understand what I mean. And quite often people have gone, oh, so that's what makes Doctor Strange awesome. I didn't realize. And I always smirk, but that's neither here nor there. Moving on.
Right.
Became a useless sidebar.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to say to that paragraph because there's not really much there, honestly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. When Alana Pierce joined the God of War development team, we saw signs of this. Pierce is one of the most fetishized people in modern gaming. Mm-hmm. And at the first sound delay, she was immediately bombarded with rape R threats, hard R threats, and
they mean rape threats, but they just don't want to put rape because
they
have to censor bad concepts.
No, they put R there. I didn't want to say it. They put rape there. I didn't want to say it, honestly. And pornographic deep fakes of herself, blaming her entirely for the delay. Okay, that's stupid. I will admit that. Blaming one person.
It's also probably just a meme. Like, it's probably just some very dark humor. Because that's how gamers do.
Yeah.
Someone seriously should just make like a Z Frank True Facts About Gamers or Geeks video, and explain to these people why gamers and geeks in general do the things they do, because they appear not to know. And I think if someone just laid it out in like a faux documentary comedic style like Z Frank, they might finally get it through their heads. I might have to do that one of these days.
Wait a minute. Let's see. Huh. Okay.
Have you never heard of had you never heard of Z Frank?
No. I was looking up Lana Pierce, see who she was.
Ah, okay. I was like, there's no way in hell you've never seen a Z Frank video.
I don't know who that is, man.
Oh, my friend, I'm gonna have to send you so many videos now.
Okay. um, but I am also fully aware that there are sometimes people who do just blame like one person for a delay for a product or something.
Yeah, no, if they're actually being sincere with that, they can fuck off. But my guess is it's probably just a meme.
Yeah. Mainly, I would blame the publisher or the higher ups because those guys are usually the ones fucking up. Mostly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, and I forget who does God of War. I think it might be CD Projekt Red.
No, it's Sony.
Oh well, then that explains it. Sony is rather
Well, the movie studio, sure, but I've never really. Okay.
No, the gaming side of things is known to fuck up constantly too.
To be fair, I don't really play Sony games, so.
Yeah, but gaming companies in general usually are a complete crapshoot, whether they have a good day or a bad day. So
yeah. Okay. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, moving forward.
This week, when rumors of Ragnarok release date reveal Ragnarok release date reveal came and went, another female dev at the studio revealed that she had been sent numerous dick pics, essentially ransoming an end to the harassment campaign if she told to send her the release date. So he knows. Hold on. Also, he knows when he'll be able to buy a toy. He's definitely going to buy anyway.
Dick pics might not be people trolling her. It might just be people hitting on her, because
honestly,
I can tell you from experience using dating apps that some people just don't know how to be charming at all, and they will just randomly send you dick pics.
Yeah, that's. If TV has taught me anything, that's like a guy's go-to thing.
Again, it's usually just the last resort of someone who doesn't know how to be charming otherwise. But also, pro tip to any gay men out there in particular, because this will affect me: don't do it. Just don't do it.
I remember I watch like comedy videos, like stand-up comedians and stuff. I think it's a guy named Nat Wolf. I think that's him. I think it's his name.
The kid who used to be the frontrunner for the Naked Brothers band?
No. Someone, I can't remember their fucking name. But he said, guys, stop. Like, it was part of a setup of a joke that I don't remember it as well, but the punchline is, do not send women dick pics, or do not send people dick pics, because the penis does not photograph well.
It really doesn't.
No.
Your dick is not your wingman, dude. It cannot it cannot make the case for you on your behalf.
Weird. This is a weird fucking tangent. I'm moving.
I mean, it is, but seriously, unless we're talking about one that's like a foot long or something, then maybe.
Dude, we're moving on.
Yeah.
Okay, fuck's sake. But yeah, to that I don't really.
Yeah, they might actually just be hitting on her, just really ineffectively.
I mean, honestly, that is kind of fucked up, though. Still,
I mean, it is, but it's no more fucked up than every dating app under the sun, because every dating app under the sun has people who do that.
Yeah, no,
Trust
okay.
me, I know.
I'm not even going to respond to that. Honestly, I'm not going to respond to that. Yeah, but I don't really have
Next.
Yeah. That was mocked more than it was criticized. Silly little gamer and his silly little penis pictures. But this is a campaign of sexual harassment that is ostensibly being done out of love for a piece of art she is helping create.
It's not sexual harassment. It really isn't. It really sounds like ineffective flirting is all it sounds like. It's the same kind of shit that happens on dating apps all the fucking time.
I mean, how does one define sexual harassment? I guess it's a big question.
Yeah, and there again, what definition are you using? But
I always assume for sexual harassment there is a physical element more so.
Yeah, like or like repeated. Okay, I could give you repeated messages. Like if someone is being like repeatedly aggressive in Messenger or something, because I've known people in particular, the mysterious Mr. Enter, he has a cyber stalker. Or he had a cyber stalker. I'm not sure if she still finds him or not, but he had a cyber stalker who would just find everywhere he was online and every piece of social media he had online and just repeatedly like spam messages to him, no matter how many times he told her he politely that he wasn't interested and to please go away and leave him alone. She wouldn't do it. And it got to the point where she would even like try to bribe him by sending things to his Patreon, and then when he wouldn't respond, she would angrily withdraw it and blah 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 blah. It was so there, yeah, so like something that could meaningfully qualify as harassment, that's one thing, but a dick pic, especially if it's just one from one dude, no, it's
that there were numerous.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean numerous from one dude. It means she's a famous person, so a lot of people happened to hit on her.
Yeah. That does tend to happen a lot.
Yeah. This is the problem with famous people talking about harassment. You made yourself a public figure, therefore your personhood or your existence is public knowledge. You are more known than other people, and therefore you will have more people trying to get your attention or to get your approval or awareness than other people do. But that's what you wanted. You wanted to be more known than other people. You wanted to be more public than other people. So, unfortunately, that comes with both the positive, self-affirming kind of attention, but also the negative, go get raped in a fire kind of attention. Especially if you're a deliberately controversial figure or you say deliberately controversial shit. You don't get to say deliberately confrontational shit and then not expect any criticism for it. And since you have more people following you than most people do, you get more criticism than most people do, and perhaps more fervent criticism than most people do, because you're a more substantive presence in most people's lives. You wanted fame, and fame, my darling, is a double-edged sword of Damocles. You want more people to know who you are? Then that's fine, but that means that people who hate your guts will also more likely know who you are than otherwise. and you're just gonna have to deal with it.
Anyway, Uno.
Yeah, moving on.
It's monstrous that this happens, and it's ridiculous that we just toss these incidents on the pile of excuses and say gamers will be gamers. We should care more about gaming than to let this all slide, only interacting when we can get a cheap laugh out of a dumb tweet, all while the undercurrent of hatred and harassment swells longer.
No, okay. First of all, ignoring it is the correct response because ignoring it is the most likely course of action to get it to go the fuck away. But mockery is also an effective choice. Being moralistically hysterical is only going to exacerbate the problem because it's only going to show yourself to be more of a fuddy-duddy, pearl-clutching prude, and fuddy-duddy, pearl-clutching prudes are the most fun to mock the shit out of. So you have two options when facing alleged harassment. You can ignore it entirely, make use of the block button, make use of the mute button, make use of those features, or you can mock it mercilessly and make the person feel absurd for doing it. That is likely to work. What is not likely to work is becoming afraid of those people, because there are some people, however fucked up they may be, who feed on moralistic prudishness, hysteria, and fear. Telling a troll that you fear them is as good as giving them a blank check to do whatever they want to you. Mocking a troll until they leave you the fuck alone is probably the best option, or just ignore them and be bored by them, or ignore them and then mock them to your friends. That is the correct response. Trying to create some kind of bizarro, moral terroristic narrative about them is only going to make them worse because it's giving them power over you. You can mock them, you can ignore them, but for the love of God, do not moralistically be afraid of or hystericalize them. You will make the problem infinitely worse for everyone.
Well,
moving on.
Gamers will be called. Oh no, gamers will only be gamers when we stop them. It's a start with that Cory Barlog has repeatedly called out these God of War fans that publicly stood by his team, and then like Druckmann is less inclined to make it all about himself. But it's only a start. I don't have anything to say.
I don't really have any idea what they're talking about, so I can't really comment.
Okay, Luna?
Yep.
All of us need to be aware that for all the progress on screen, too many in gaming's audience have been allowed to stay safe and secure in the discrimination of the past.
Okay, because you are not the arbiter of how other people should fucking behave, you evil moralistic cunt. And here's the other thing. You're assuming that there is some moral flaw happening here rather than just wondering if the problem might be with yourself. As the old saying goes, if you meet one asshole in a given day, then they're an asshole. But if everyone you meet in any given day is an asshole, then you may very well just be the asshole. Well, given that other people are willing to live and let live, and you're the only one being morally effrontery about shit, it's very probable that you are the moralistic, pearl-clutching, puritanical asshole in the situation. And you're affecting a kind of moral authority that no one gave you and no one is under any obligation to give a fuck about. You don't control gamers. You don't get to define gamers, and you don't get to control gamers. Gamers are just people, and people are going to be people in all the best and worst ways that implies, and you don't get to take an issue with it, especially not under moral grounds, because moral authority has no place here. Now be gone before someone drops a house made of Kex on you. Moving on. And I'm assuming Brainstormer left to do something, and he will be back.
I'm back.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I went to go grab some dinner.
Yeah.
In case anyone's wondering, it's spaghetti. No meatballs, though. Just tomato sauce with hamburger. All right, so this is also one Dolan sent me, which is also another Google Documents, and because
same thing. We couldn't open it. This one, though, I think was because ads.
No, because you have to pay to read it.
Yeah, and
yeah.
I
So
am once again a sneaky bastard.
Yeah. Yeah, there's an underlying toxicity to season 4 of Stranger Things. This is from the independent.co.uk. Again, links down below. Shall we?
Yep.
It's ironic that we keep doing this to celebrities, particularly famous women, and then wonder why society has a massive self-esteem issue on its hands. I believe this is written by Emma Flint.
Okay, the thing there, dear, is celebrities make themselves an object of attention. They basically make it a point to make sure people pay attention to them. Well, if you make it a point to make sure people pay attention to you, some of the people who you get attention from are not going to like you, and therefore the attention you get from them is going to be negative attention.
I want to at least read a bit more just so we have context, because I feel like you might be jumping the gun there.
I mean, maybe, but I find it annoying whenever someone goes, "Oh, won't somebody please think of the celebrities?" And I'm like, well, the fact that people are thinking of the celebrities is exactly why this happens. Because when you become famous, the amount of attention you get goes up, which includes both positive and negative attention.
Okay, so
this is the Faustian bargain you make when you become famous. Moving on.
4 pages of this shit. Great.
Yep. This one was longer than the other one. Yeah, I noticed that when I was copying it.
Yeah. A lot of good things have come from the latest season of Stranger Things, but the way fans are pitting its female cast against each other isn't one of them. Okay, I'm not gonna say anything because again, I want the context needed for that.
Yeah, what she actually means.
Yeah, that's just an assertion than anything.
Yeah.
All right. There's no escaping the hype around season 4 Stranger Things. I don't really care. Love it or hate it, the latest series has broken the internet with its emotional roller coaster, quite literally. Netflix experienced 13,000 outrages as fans tried to tune in. 13,000 outages as fans tried to tune in 1 a.m. on July 1st.
Yeah, it crashed the server. And good for Stranger Things, because it seems like the Duffer Brothers deserve it, so good for them.
But underneath the surface of its fandoms lurks a seedy underbelly, that's every fandom, centered around female actors and their looks. Okay, again, that's every fandom.
And people are going...
I'm not excusing that, I'm just more pointing that out.
Yeah, no, it is a factor of how everyone behaves. And acting like it's not is just silly. But more to the point, if you propose yourself, if you put yourself in front of people demanding to be judged by a given criteria, then people are going to judge you by that criteria. Like if I were to say, I am a fabulous singer, then I wouldn't be surprised if people started judging me for my singing voice. Because I nominated it as a thing to be judged by. And the thing with actors, especially female actors, is they want to be judged based on their looks. Therefore, people oblige by judging them on their looks. Unfortunately, that means that there's going to be some type of hierarchy in attractiveness, i.e., some people are going to be more attractive and some people are going to be less attractive. Therefore, there's going to be comparisons made, because if multiple people basically turn up at the shoot and say, judge me based on my attractiveness, people are going to oblige. The problem with judging people based on their attractiveness, especially if there's more than one person involved, is some people are going to be judged as more attractive than others.
Right.
And if that be the case, then some people, therefore, are going to be judged as less attractive than others. You can't bitch about the game you're playing when you start losing it. You chose to become an actress. You chose to put yourself out there and to make your looks a factor to be judged by. Therefore, people are going to judge you on them.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Naturally, with any TV show, especially one where the vast majority of its characters are incredibly good looking, appearance is going to be mentioned. Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, again, this is the Faustian bargain you make when you become famous. Some of the people who see you aren't going to like you, because more people will see you on average than anyone else.
All right, moving on.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah. Going forward.
Well, we've all seen the Steve Harrington memes about looking respectfully at his shirtless chest. Okay, see, this is why I don't. This is why I don't like watching this kind of stuff. It's weird to me, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fandom's always kind of like when these kind of like popular things. It's kind of usually the fandom or something that turns me off to it.
Yeah. So some people are just watching it to get their rocks off, metaphorically.
Oh.
And I can't really judge it because that's exactly why I watched Twilight.
Okay, fair enough. I'm not even judging either. I think it's weird, personally, but whatever. We're gonna do what people do, I suppose.
Yeah, but the other thing is she's going to make the case that this particularly is harmful to women, and she just admitted that people do it to men too, and yet men are not expected to be affected by this at all.
Right. Anyway. However, while comments about actors being hot is expected, what shouldn't be accepted is the comparison aspect. Dude, that happens all the time. Like, I think that's been going on ever since like the internet ever became a thing.
Okay, but more to the point, how can you talk about hotness without comparing it, especially when there's multiple examples to draw from in a given setting? That's how you determine like meritocracy. You compare two things that are being judged by the same criteria, and you determine which of those two things is better by that criteria. You know, how do you compare which chef is better than another chef? They both make whatever dish they're making, and then you compare based on, various criteria which dish is better than the other's dish. Well, if the vector in question is beauty or hotness, then you're going to have to take one person, compare them to another person in a similar category, and determine which of them you find hotter. This is not some kind of misogynistic conspiracy theory. This is just how you make a reasoned judgment about shit. Moving on.
Wow. Yeah. You don't have to search far online to see threads of fans asking who is looking better, A or B. The reason this comparison is so troubling, however, is because it's primarily aimed at the women of the cast, especially Millie Bobby Brown and Sadie Sink. In fact, one of the top Google suggestions when you type in their names is Millie Bobby Brown or Sadie Sink. And once you click that, you enter down a rabbit hole that leads to some seriously NSW places. See, again, that doesn't surprise me. I think it's weird, and I honestly think that's kind of bad for the actresses.
Yeah, this is how the internet do what the internet do, darling. And trust me when I tell you, speaking once again as a gay man here, if you want to look for some areas where they do it to male characters too, it exists. It really, really it exists. I mean, for fuck's sake, back when I was in middle school and Brainstormer was in elementary school still, Twilight Mania was a thing, and what was the main crux of that? Team Edward or Team Jacob? And let's not pretend that didn't have anything to do with the attractiveness differential between Robert Pattinson and Taylor Lautner. For the record, my money was on Jacob, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah,
to be fair, he fits your archetype, so.
Yeah, but yeah, Edward was in no way attractive in my opinion, but that's neither here nor there. My ideal setting would have been a threesome between Jacob and Emmett Cullen and myself. Emmett was the big burly jock one.
I don't.
Who wrestled bears and shit.
Okay.
Moving on.
Okay, yeah. 1 second. Let me get to the tab. The show has won countless awards and has some of the finest acting many of us have seen in years. So, are we seriously saying that there's nothing more to these women than their looks? I don't.
No one says that.
Yeah.
No one.
No, that's an implication that isn't.
That is a straw man if ever I heard one.
Yeah, like
no one. Okay, not only does no one say that, but here's another thing about fandoms that you have to take into account. Very often, people aren't just attracted to the way the actor looks or the way the actress looks. Their ability to find the character or the actor playing them attractive is often dependent on the personality displayed by the character in the show. We don't know anything about how these actors act off screen, or very little. Obviously now it's a lot easier to find if you're looking for it. But my point is, very often, especially for people like me, I don't care about the actor. I don't find the actor inherently attractive just by themselves. I care about the character and whether the character's personality is attractive. For example, Chris Evans played the main jock character in the movie Not Another Teen Movie, which was a parody of 80s rom-coms like She's All That. I didn't find him attractive at all then. I didn't find him at all attractive in Fantastic Four when he played the Human Torch. I did, however, find him attractive when he played Steve Rogers' Captain America, because Steve Rogers' Captain America is an adorable cinnamon roll who is also hot. Point being, very often it is the character's personality or idiosyncrasies that informs who we find attractive, because we're not just attractive to static images, or at least it's a lot harder to become attractive to just static images. If you want to know if someone is genuinely attractive, you have to see them in motion, you have to see them moving, you have to know their personality, you have to know what their laugh or their smile looks like, because part of what makes a person attractive in human psychology is what's known as the theory of mind. They've actually done studies that show men find it much harder to get off to porn if the woman isn't looking at them, because what they react to, at least in some part, is the woman's attention of them, i.e., they are attracted to the idea that the woman in turn is attracted to them. And the same is true of gay men and women in large part. Point being, we don't see other people as meat puppets, or at least very few of us do. People with cluster B personality disorders might be a separate issue, but most neurologically functional human beings are attracted to both the body of a person and the mind / soul / personality of a person. That's why it's harder to screw a sex doll, because we know there's no soul, or there's no organizing intelligence behind that. That's why AI sex dolls are so much more profitable than non-AI presented ones, because we like the idea of a simulacra of someone's personality in addition to their body. And this also happens when we're falling for actors who play fictional characters, or the fictional characters themselves. Part of what informs our attraction to them is their personality and their theory of mind. The fact that you don't know that is somewhat concerning to me, frankly. Moving on.
Okay. Hold on. Okay. Instead of discussing their talents, which are many, we devolve into comparison wars. They can't be both be beautiful. One apparently has to trump the other. Comments like "she is the prettiest girl of the cast" or "she is very pretty, but Millie is gorgeous" are rife alongside YouTube videos asking who wore it better. Okay, that's like literally. I've seen, like videos like that are also like ones for like models and shit.
Yeah, and also the ability to be alluring, the ability to be attractive, is also a skill, because again, attractiveness isn't just a static image. Attractiveness can be conveyed through body language, can be conveyed through a person's clothing or makeup choices, can be communicated through smiles, through facial expressions. The ability to make your character alluring enough to be attractive is also a skill. So in many ways, judging whether a character is attractive or not can be a reflection on the actor's skill. In fact, if you're a really good actor, you can change the way you carry yourself, or your facial expressions, or your body type, depending on the role you're playing. I mean, hell, example, Christian Bale looks completely different in, I think the movie where he became almost anorexic was called The Machinist, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Than he does when he played Batman in the Christopher Nolan trilogy, or looks completely different when he plays Gore. Same thing with as a female example, Rebecca Ferguson. Despite the fact that she's very much still the same actress, she has a very different screen presence as a character like Jessica in Denis Villeneuve's Dune than she did when she was playing the deliberately sensual and deliberately alluring Rose the Hat in Stephen King's Doctor Sleep movie, done by Mike Flanagan, which is also an excellent movie if anyone didn't know, but that's neither here nor there. Point being, if you're a good actor, you can change the way the audience sees you depending on what is necessary for the role. And not to muddy the waters too much here, but to give a very obvious fictional example, that is always the justification given for why Superman only needs to wear the glasses to portray Clark Kent, because he doesn't just change whether or not he's wearing glasses. He changes the way he carries himself, the way he holds himself, the way his voice sounds, and so on and so forth, so that it affects a completely different personality.
Right. Moving on.
But I had another thing.
Oh.
The problem is, you're not describing someone being seen as beautiful and someone being seen as ugly. You're describing someone being seen as attractive and less or more attractive. Which by which I mean, no one is saying that anyone in the show is ugly. They're saying they're all to some degree attractive, i.e., you wouldn't kick any of them out of bed, but there are people who are more attractive than other people, which isn't even a discriminatory hierarchy. It's not saying ugly to pretty. It's saying pretty to prettiest, basically. Everyone is a positive integer. There are no negative integers here. There are just some people who score higher integers than others. It's a completely sensible hierarchy, frankly. Moving on.
All right. Before long, the comments start to delve deeper, sexualizing parts of their body, like their lips and hair, take the comparison to new levels of toxicity. Hold on, Dalton. Some fans even enter other fan communities just to cause trouble, posting the likes of Sadie Sink is always pretty, accompanied by a string of photos to back up their statement. Why is Sadie? Hold on. Why is Sadie Sink's appearance even being talked about on a Millie Bobby Brown fan page? It isn't necessary and only serves to generate more comparisons of the two. It reeks of childhood fights over whether Barbie is better than Cindy. Okay.
Because, number one, trolling, which is a factor of the entire internet. Number two, if this is a fandom war, engaging it could just be a fandom shit test, i.e., it's a little bit like back in the day when Nintendo and Sega were having their fan wars, or when Coke and Pepsi were having their fan wars. What your choice between these two options can tell people things about you, whether you prefer Coke to Pepsi or Pepsi to Coke, or whether you prefer Sega to Nintendo or Nintendo to Sega. That can tell people things about you, and it can also tell them that you at least know enough to have an opinion on the subject. Also, if this truly is a contentious subject matter among the fandom, of course someone is going to ask the question, just like I imagine there are people who post Millie Bobby Brown pictures on Sadie's fan pages, because it's a subject matter among the fan base. And so wherever you have a high enough concentration of fans of Stranger Things, you're going to find some percentage of those fans who have the Sadie versus Millie Bobby Brown argument for the 50th time today. It's just like Twilight fans, you will find, many, many message boards where someone somewhere is posting a Edward or Jacob comment, because that's how fandoms do.
Moving on. Okay. A lot of things have come from the Lacey's of Stranger Things, but the way fans are pitting its female cast against each other isn't one of them. They're not pitting anyone against each other.
They're not saying we should lock Millie Bobby Brown and Sadie, what's her name, into gladiator.
Huh? Sadie Sink.
Yeah, they're not saying we should lock Millie Bobby Brown and Sadie Sink in a gladiatorial arena somewhere, and two women enter, one woman leaves, or some shit. If they were doing that, I would agree with you. That is genuinely toxic. But as amusing as the fact that someone that did that would be, but they're not doing that. They're just saying both of these women are attractive, and they're close enough in attraction, apparently, that people can have a meaningful disagreement about it. In fact, it would be more insulting in many ways if they didn't have this rivalry going, because that would mean that one of them or the other was either more attractive to the point of not being able to be competed with, or unattractive to the point of not being admissible to the discussion. The fact that they're close enough in attraction that people can have these rather subjective turf wars over it means that both women are attractive enough to have their personal fan bases. And I imagine that's very good for those two actors' ego.
Right.
To know that not only are you attractive, but you're attractive enough to have people fighting over you with someone else. And you can't tell me that Sadie Sink and Millie Bobby Brown have never good-naturedly jabbed at each other over this. Like, oh, I seem to be winning the fandom war today. Well, I won the fandom war last week, and so on and so on and so forth. Thus building camaraderie between them, question mark? Yes, because that's how friendships work.
Okay. Okay. So I'm looking at the comments right now. Okay, so Giant Turtle, if you want to understand human sexualization, just look at the 8-20 rule. The top X% of men are sexualized just as much as women are of that level, if not more. More because both more women, and if anything, the men are shamed for not accepting it, not the women for doing it. The men below that criteria are a compromise if acceptable at all.
Yeah,
P.S.
and
Hold on. P.S. They are attractive. These people complain about that. And if they are not, they care. They care about that. Like that journalist that wanted catcalling a few years after complaining about it because it stopped.
Yeah, that is another vector of this. The main
thing.
Yeah,
really catcall.
Yeah, there have been women who have written articles after articles after articles complaining about catcalling until they hit their 40s, and then they write articles about, I used to hate catcalling and now I'm upset that no one catcalls me anymore.
There's no winning with these people.
Yeah, because they don't actually have consistent principles or self-awareness. But as it happens, and I was looking for an opening to bring this up, the reason why women are compared in terms of attractiveness more than men are is because men are found to be attractive based on what they either can do, have done, or have the capacity to do. They're not found inherently attractive for what they are. And on balance, more women are found attractive than more men are, because men have to actually meet a certain threshold to be considered, air quotes, real men, whereas women are usually considered attractive by default, and you actually have to go deliberately out of your way to make a woman unattractive. The threshold for attractive among women is lower because we inherently find women more attractive than men. And the attractiveness threshold for men is higher because we inherently devalue men's attraction unless they are, as Dragon Turtle was pointing out, in the top 20% of quote unquote real men. But that's a whole nother barrel of kettles. But that's the reason why you find less arguments over whether David Harbour or whatever the fuck the other male cast members in Stranger Things are. And that's not even saying that it doesn't exist, because again, as a gay man, I can confirm those arguments do very much exist over here. And I imagine they exist among women too. They just happen less because it takes more for a man to be attractive in the first place. than it takes a woman to be attractive in the first place. And it takes men less to be unattractive in the first place, and it takes women more to be unattractive in the first place.
Right. Okay, last one, giant troll, then we gotta continue on. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There is no winning because these people, I assume, want and not wasn't to have. These people want to have their cake, eat it, lose weight, sell the cake, donate it to charity, and have a hot billionaire pop out of it and propose to them.
I mean that's a very convoluted and humorous way of phrasing it, but yes,
that's pretty, I would assume that's pretty accurate, to be honest.
Yeah, they want all of the positive benefits and none of the negative restrictions whatsoever, all simultaneously, even if those benefits and negative aspects are contradictory to each other somehow.
Moving on?
Yep, moving on.
Okay. 1 second. Sorry, I started eating like the second we were ready.
Yeah. This is the night, the beautiful night.
All right.
And I call it dead.
I'm ready now. All right. There's no escaping the hype around season 4 of Stranger Things. Love it or hate it, the series. Oh wait, I already read that, didn't I?
You did. You forgot to scroll again.
Yeah, I scrolled up by accident. Holy shit.
No.
No, wait, no, I didn't. Okay, wait a minute. No, you double the fuck?
What happened?
Well, it kind of looks like you doubled
Double pasted something?
yeah. So that's
I may have my phone was doing that earlier, and I caught it the first time it did it, but I might not have caught it the second time.
okay. I'm trying to find it. Okay, found it. Because I was confused because I was seeing like same things that I knew I read. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That was my paste function for whatever reason didn't decide to actually paste what I needed it to paste until like the second or third time I copied it. So that might be why.
I have a similar problem too sometimes with my mouse. So you're not alone in that.
And then I guess it must have double pasted after I clicked it twice or something. Who knows?
Yeah, it's whatever. It's fine. It still works here. So all right. All right. So actually moving on here.
Yeah.
Why is women versus women still the norm? You don't see it for the male actors of the show. Joe Carey, who plays Steve, and Joseph Quinn, who plays Eddie, haven't been subjected to this degrading game of who's fitter. I'm sure they have, but
Because yeah, they have to some degree, and also it's possible that they're just simply not attractive by women judging men's standards. It's also possible that they're valued for what they do on the show more than they are for their physical attractiveness, because that's how you judge men. Women are valued as value objects, kind of like Fabergé eggs. Men are valued as appliances and utilities, i.e., men are valued based on what they do, women are valued for how they look, feel, and think. Because women don't have to do to be attractive. Men, on the other hand, very much do have to do to be attractive. That's why there is the air quotes real man standard. And why I fucking hate that shit as a men's rights advocate, because the whole real man standard is not something we apply to ourselves, is something that is applied on us by our mothers and eventually, for those of us that are straight, significant others. But that doesn't apply to me because I am not touching that shit with a 10-foot pole. Haha. There are benefits to being gay, ladies and gentlemen. But that's neither here nor there.
All right. A couple more. Okay. They're treated as two attractive men, neither seen as better than the other.
It's probably because people just don't care about how attractive they are in general.
Search Google for Eddie or Steve Stranger Things, and not only does it try to correct your words to Eddie and Steve, but every post is about their bromance. Where are the threads?
Okay, that might be another factor then. If they have a bromance, then that's probably why they're not seen as fodder for comparison, because they're seen as a package deal. I.e., why would you break them up when you can just have a threesome with both of them? It's kind of like my thing with Hulkling and Wiccan. Why would I say that Hulkling is more attractive than Wiccan when I could just have both?
I say this as your friend, Dom. You kind of a hoe.
I'm also a virgin, so shut the fuck up.
Still a hoe.
I literally can't be a hoe if I'm still a virgin. That means I haven't given it up to anyone.
You can be a hoe in your heart.
Okay, that's going on a mug. When we get large enough to get merch, that's going on a mug. Be a hoe in your heart is now a phrase that's going on a mug.
I mean, if we say it enough, sure, but I doubt it.
No, I declare from this point on that it shall go on a mug, and Dragon Turtle is here to act as a witness to the fact that I claimed it, so we're doing it.
All right.
Be a hoe in your heart is now a phrase that's going on a mug, thanks to Brainstormer.
Okay. I really regret this shit. I don't really have anything else to say to that last part, so moving on.
Yeah, but the long and the short of it is, because attractiveness is not a main measure for men, and or because neither of them is seen as attractive enough to be thirst traps over, because men have to go out of their way to be thirst traps, and or because they're already in a relationship, the fan base doesn't see any reason to, even if it is just a bromance, the fan base doesn't see any reason to compare their, like, okay, as a alternate universe example of this, do you think there still would have been an Edward versus Jacob rivalry if Edward and Jacob had like a friendship romance? Because I don't think so. I think if they had that kind of friendship, 9 times out of 10 the fan base would have gone, why the fuck are you even dealing with Bella? Just date each other. Because I know how the internet works. And I already think that, even though they are at odds with each other some of the time. So I'm not alone in it either. So there. Granted, I think Jacob could do better. I think he should get with Emmett, but that's a Twilight conversation. We won't do that again.
As the guy who doesn't like Twilight here, I say fuck off with that shit. I also want to bring up the thing Dragon just said here. What have I witnessed? What has this podcast come to?
You have witnessed the birth of a meme. Because Brainstormer thought he was getting one over on me, but he could not have foreseen my ability to own my own shit. So much so as to make it a meme. So be a hoe in your heart is now a phrase that Brainstormer has birthed onto the world that is going on a mug someday.
Fuck you.
With a little like pink sketched heart on it too, just for the meme. Yeah.
Okay, so Giant. Okay, I think so. I've seen love triangles where there is a gay side, just a third faction to fight over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I do want to get this one done because I actually don't think it is that like long per se. I think it's long because again like the double pasted
Yeah.
thing.
That and also the stupid per square inch.
Yeah.
Thing.
Sure. I thought that went without saying, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Our culture pits women against one another, with our looks being utilized as the main currency. If society sees something they like about you, they champion it, but if they see something they don't, they tear it down by pointing out that someone has the desirable part you're lacking. I mean,
okay, darling, you just stepped right into something that I don't think you even foresaw stepping into here. But who judges other women for being unattractive? Because it sure as fuck isn't men, my darling.
oh, dude, no, it is other women. Holy shit.
It's other, because as we all know, the obligatory Heathers and Mean Girls that made everyone's life a living hell in high school are so very a thing. And if you don't believe that, then you really must have. Yeah, actually, you know what? I'm gonna go one step further with this. If you don't know about the phenomena of Mean Girls, Emma, that means you probably were one. Because the only people with the luxury of not knowing about the social hierarchy are the people at the top of it. That is something that I have come across many times in my life. When you bring up the social hierarchy to someone at the top of it, they will act confused because they don't know that the social hierarchy is a thing, because they never had to learn that the social hierarchy was a thing because they were always at the top of it. It's a very alien and frustrating mindset to deal with because I don't know how people like that could possibly think. But yeah, no. The only people who don't know anything about the social hierarchy are the people that were always perpetually at the top of it. And if you don't know about Mean Girls, Emma, then you probably were one. And that's the funny thing. Some Mean Girls are so oblivious that they don't even realize they're doing it, which is both hilarious and terrifying at the same time.
I don't think I ever had a Mean Girl situation go on.
Oh, mine did.
Like 20 years in the past, so.
I literally live in a place so rural that it's basically a Stephen King setting.
Right, but to be fair, I never really. I kept to myself a lot, so I think I just avoided them.
Okay, so parenthetical adjustment. There are two kinds of people who don't know anything about the social pecking order: people who are at the top of it and have the privilege of being oblivious to it, and the people who never bothered learning about it in the first place. So
it always seemed like so much fucking work.
So I get it. I get exactly where you're coming. I knew I was at the bottom of the social hierarchy, but I was also in a. See, the thing with me is I was in a weird place with the social hierarchy because everyone knew of me because I was the crippled kid, and so everyone knew of me, but no one, or almost no one, ever actually knew me because they thought that knowing of me was enough to know me, and therefore didn't ever feel the need to actually like talk to me.
Yeah.
Like I sat alone at my lunch table from like ninth grade through like senior year because I never really developed friendships and nobody ever bothered. It wasn't until like junior or senior year that I found a stable group of friends.
For me, it's a bit weirder because I'm a pretty easygoing guy, and I made friends with like a bunch of people, sort of through my classes. Like we just hung out like during class and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was friends with like kind of anyone who was willing to be friends. You know, like I was friends with like football players, band geeks, other nerds. Granted, they were actually cooler than me. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to tear myself down or anything. I'm being just objective here.
Yeah. Talking about the story. Although, just because I'm never gonna get a chance to throw this back in your face ever again, you call me a hoe and yet you're friends with everyone.
I call you a hoe because you want to have sex with a bunch of people. That doesn't make me having a bunch of friends does not make me a hoe. Makes me so.
Okay, but to be fair, I don't just want meaningless sex with people. I want relationships with all of these characters.
Fair enough.
Like if I had my multiversal brothers, I would have a like 18-way polyamorous relationship with all of these guys.
That sounds like a lot of work, and whatever. Man. I'm not. Whatever. I don't know how.
Yeah, but while we're sharing funny like social hierarchy pecking order stories, apparently like 3 people throughout my high school life, when they randomly ran into my mom, would say that they felt bad for me constantly sitting alone, and yet still nobody ever did anything about it. That's one of the moments where I was like, you two-faced sons of bitches. If it bothers you that I'm sitting alone so much, you could try to solve the situation, or or you can deal with the fact that I'm sitting alone, but you don't then get to virtue signal to my mom about it. But it always chapped my ass that people were like that, because it's like, if it bothers you that I'm sitting alone, then pull up a chair.
Right.
If it doesn't bother you that I'm sitting alone, then don't cry about it to my mother.
Right. All right. Yeah. Moving on.
Yeah.
Okay. For Sadie Sink, a lot of obsessive fawning is about her hair and natural beauty, in air quotes, with those who idolize her quickly slating Brown for wearing too much makeup in a bid to prove their point. You can't just give a compliment without insulting someone else. Okay, again, yeah, that's stupid. That's really stupid. I'm not.
Yeah, but the reason that exists is because there is a point of comparison there, and it is a meaningful one, because natural beauty will always be prized more than an artificial beauty. It's why I constantly doll myself up with fancy clothes and my bow tie and things, and then actually attractive men usually look the most attractive when they're not wearing shirts, because because my beauty is something I have to curate, if it could be said that I have any to begin with. Whereas other men who are actually attractive look better when they take things off. See how that works? Well, it's the same for women. Women who look better without makeup than with it will always be prized more than women who have to doll themselves up to look attractive. See?
Moving on.
Yeah.
All right. Even when we're not comparing, looks are still valued over talent. I mean, that's all of fucking Hollywood. Let's be honest.
Unfortunately, that's just superficiality. There's nothing toxic about that. That's just stupidity.
Yeah.
Unless you want to call stupidity toxic. But then again, if we're calling stupidity toxic, then this article should come with a freaking Geiger counter.
Yeah, that is a rabbit hole I am not jumping down. Anyway, with virtually every comment about either of these two powerful actors following the same pattern, she's gorgeous and rarely does praise about their acting come first.
Okay, and again, I mentioned this earlier, but I will mention it again because you appear to have just not put two and two together. sometimes part of what is attractive about someone is the way they hold themselves, their body language, their personality, their the emotional states they display, or the psychology they appear to have. Because we find people attractive based on more than just how they look. You can make yourself look more attractive by dressing appropriately, for example, or by using body language appropriately. That's why I fucking affect the quasi-courtly aristocratic bullshit that I do most of the time. Because that's the niche wherein I can be compelling to some degree. And again, part of what makes someone attractive may be down to their ability as an actor, because the ability to be alluring is a skill that can fall under the purview of acting. That's why some exotic dancers or strippers, what have you, get more money than others, because some put effort into it and put what's euphemistically known as glamour into it, i.e., they're the kind of women who can put in the come hither to men or to women or to whomever. You know, the idea of someone being mesmerized by someone's eyes, that's not just in fiction or in vampire stories, love. That's a thing people can actually do. And if you're good at being attractive, that is, to some degree, a reflection on your acting skill. Being affable, being likable, being attractive is something that makes you a good actor. As a male, throw in a male example here. Dwayne the Rock Johnson. He plays every single character he's ever played the exact same, because they're all an extension of Dwayne the Rock Johnson's personality. However, because Dwayne the Rock Johnson is incredibly likable as a person, and he imbues all of his characters with that same likability, with that same sort of big brother dude bro smile thing he does, we tend to like his characters because his personality is likable. Well, women can do the same thing, but women are more likely to use their talents to be seductive, because attractiveness is something that women judge each other by in the feminine dominance hierarchy. And yes, there is such a thing as a feminine dominance hierarchy. Despite what certain feminists might think, men are not the ones who came up with the idea of a dominance hierarchy. Men and women just have different dominance hierarchies. Moving on.
Rarely does, did I read that? Rarely does their acting come first, yet if they're regarded as bad actors, they'd be criticized. Okay. I don't think I read that part yet, though.
Yeah.
Yet they were regarded as bad actors. They'd be criticized for only getting airtime because of their appearance. Similar to the criticism Megan Fox has experienced for the vast majority of her. Actually, she's not a bad actress.
She just gets shit roles because Michael Bay is a twit.
Yeah. Funny thing, I'm sorry, this is a complete tangent, but it's just funny to me because I actually watched like this video where like talked about celebrities who are like anime fans. Apparently, Megan Fox is a big fan of Sailor Moon, and actually, I think at one time tried to get a Sailor Moon live action movie made.
Okay, why in the hell is there not a Sailor Moon movie starring Megan Fox? That would make all the money.
To be fair, I don't know a lot about. The only thing I know about Sailor Moon is like from the VHS I watched when I was a kid.
It's not really my franchise either. But if it's a passion project of hers, and she wants to make it, then I say go for it.
Right. Also, Keanu Reeves is like a big fan of Cowboy Bebop and wanted to make a movie where he plays Spike Spiegel.
Why is this not a thing? I demand that this be a thing. I consider it a travesty against the laws of art that this is not already a thing.
Yeah, also like Sam Jackson, which is actually a pretty obvious one. He's a big fan of anime too.
He is such a mega nerd, and I love it.
Yeah, he actually, well, he sort of helped produce an anime called Afro Samurai. I don't know if anyone's ever seen that one.
I am unfamiliar with it. I'm gonna get familiar with it now. God damn it! But I am unfamiliar with it.
He actually voices a character in it as well. So
Yeah, I love that Sam Jackson is such a nerd. I really do. Like it. I do wonder how much acting he actually had to do with Elijah Price, Mr. Glass, in um M. Night's superhero trilogy there. Because it very much seems like a lot of that performance is just Sam Jackson like channeling his geek anger about things, and I can relate. And just to be clear here to everyone, I find Mr. Glass to be one of the most relatable villains in movie history because I am also a highly breakable possible supervillain, but that's neither here nor there. Um, But yeah, I do wonder if some of that isn't just him channeling his actual geek rage into things.
right. All right, we got a little bit left. It's ironic that we keep doing this to celebrities, particularly famous women, and then wonder why society has a massive self-esteem issue on its hands. We wouldn't be surprised that the way we obsess over attractiveness facilitates harsher critiques of appearance over anything else. Okay, again, if we switch, how would
The
they?
genders.
Yeah, if we switch genders, how would they feel? You know?
Yeah, how do men feel that they don't even get to call themselves real men unless they're at least 6 foot tall, at least, a six pack, at least six figures in the bank account and the head of a major company. Because that's what tends to be the 20% of men that women actually go after. The six sixes is what it's called. Um, and that's what the subreddit female dating strategies refers to as a high value men or high value man. So yeah, how do you think all the men who get their man cards revoked because they're not good enough to be called men feel? And side note, I actually don't think that the attractiveness comparison is in any way toxic. I find the moralistic preoccupation in not doing that to be a um to be a major contributor to negative self-esteem. For example, if you're a very attractive woman and yet no one is ever allowed to call you very attractive, or worse yet, if you're seen as unattractive because you're too traditionally feminine, how do you think that's going to make you feel? Or if you're told that literally every kind of woman is beautiful except for the traditional model physique, how do you think that's going to make you feel? Or you're not thin enough because some other woman over there exists, or you're not fat enough you, because your beauty is unrealistic somehow. How do you think that's going to make them feel? Might it give a bunch of women who are already attractive beyond all reason bulimia and anorexia because they're trying to make themselves even more beautiful when they literally are already the top 10% of women? And when men don't get to take pride in the fact that they look good and are in fact shamed for being toxically masculine just because they're, laden with machismo, how do you think that makes them feel? Or hell, the men who do their damnedest to fit women's standards and still aren't seen as good enough. The incels who do actually try to, learn PUA tricks or get in shape or whatever the fuck else, and yet they're still seen as unattractive because you're an invalid person, so you don't get to be attractive, even though you're attractive in every meaningful way we can think of.
Moving on.
Yep, moving on.
All right. The amount of comments I see saying that Brown shouldn't use face tuning and filters in selfies, that she should embrace her natural beauty, yet in the same breath they say how Sync is far more attractive.
Yes, because again, while we still have a respect for curated beauty, natural beauty is still preferable. You see this in you see this in men too, for example. There in like the classic literary sense, there are two kinds of attractive men. There's the noble male, which is the aristocratic male who's very well put together, very posh, very um refined, very chaste, you know, not to put too fine a point on it, but someone dressed and carries themselves in a way I would generally do. And then there's the beast male, who is more known for being physically intimidating, imposing, powerful, etc. In other words, it's the Edward Jacob duality. Edward is the noble male and Jacob is the beast male. Well, generally speaking, on an evolutionary scale, while we still can respect the abstract symbols of status, like nice clothing, refined manners, etc., it intuitively, on an evolutionary scale, there's still a part of us that thinks we're living in the Stone Age, and thus we really, really, really like that 7-foot guy with the six pack and whatnot. And that works for both women and gay men. That's why I included myself. That's why I said we. Whereas with women, while men can respect the woman with the overt status symbols of, you know, allegedly good breeding with, you know, nice makeup, nice clothes, etc., we really, on a like evolutionary scale, find beauty sans makeup, sans all the fancy frills, more attractive than the woman who is only attractive once she's been prettied up. That's why I freely acknowledge, for example, that I am not as attractive as someone who doesn't need the fancy clothes to look attractive. You know, I'm not as attractive as somebody who could just sit here with no shirt on and still look attractive. But I respond to that not by bitching and whining and complaining about the fact that I'm not as attractive as Taylor Lautner circa his twilight years. And I respond to that by making an effort and putting myself up in the noble sort of way rather than trying to erroneously be the beast male. I'm well aware I dress like an aristocrat. That's part of the point. Because that's my niche of attractiveness. Well, just like that, it may very well be the case that Millie Bobby Brown's niche of attractiveness is with a lot of makeup and a lot of status symbols. And that's fine and all, but on an instinctual, objective, or as close to objective as we can measure scale, the woman who can look attractive without the frills, without the fancies, is going to be more attractive than the one who needs the frills and the fancies. Moving on.
Okay. All right. These young women, and I want to emphasize that because age does factor in here, are being pulled apart for simply trying to navigate growing up under an enormously harsh spotlight.
Yeah, that spotlight is called Hollywood. They're not normal women. They're the top 1% of women.
Right.
And once again, this is the Faustian bargain you make when you become famous. If you want attention, you're going to have to work to keep it. And that work is sometimes going to be difficult. But if fame and glory is what you want, then fame and glory you must earn.
Yeah. Moving on.
Yep.
Please don't tell me I'm getting hiccups. We seem to forget that they have feelings, or that they likely see these comments and feel the need to chastise themselves for not being exactly like someone else. You know, just like most of us do. Fame doesn't prevent insecurities from happening. Arguably, it's a better breeding ground for it because you're a constant topic of conversation. Yeah, no shit.
Yes, And that is exactly the bargain you make when you seek to become famous in the first fucking place. I'm well aware that part of the reason I'm liked among YouTubers is because I have a particular aura or persona, if you like. I'm not gonna sit here and bitch and whine that I have to actually put an effort to become a good YouTuber. I'm gonna work hard at it because this is the life that I want for myself. I don't want a life that's drudgery or manual labor. I don't want a life that's a soul crushing 30 years in the cubicle farm and then dying at 50 out of stress. I want a life where I can do something meaningful with my life and where my skills and assets can be put to good use, which implies becoming somewhat famous on the internet. And unfortunately, that means having to deal with trolls and YouTube turf wars and bullshit drama sometimes. But I'm not going to sit here and complain. I'm just going to own my shit because this is the bargain that I made, not the MAB bargain. That's a completely different bargain that is immaterial to anything in this particular juncture. But the informal, metaphorical bargain that I made involved fame and glory. So I have to earn fame and glory. Them's the rules.
No.
Yep.
Okay. Women aren't commodities. Our worth doesn't lie in our books or our status. Oh no, in our looks, not books. In our looks or status, we're just worthy. Period. In a world where we worry of the impact toxic beauty standards have on our children and society in general, shouldn't we begin practicing what we preach? Oh no shit, you.
Well, okay, yeah, but here's the other thing. That's not true of men. Men aren't valued just because. They're not worthy just because. Men have to earn it. And this is why feminism is largely bullshit. Because they believe that men don't have to earn shit, while simultaneously insisting at every turn that men earn shit. Whereas women, as you just alluded to, my dear, are considered mostly just worthy because. And you don't. And the weird thing is, you actually seem to be affronted by the idea that women are worthy just because. Which is weird considering that that is to the letter what we call a privilege. People who are valued based on what they do are servants or serve a particular function. People who are valued just because are considered valuable inherently and therefore don't have to do anything. But in this particular case, my dear, in the case of a woman who wants to become famous, she chooses to do something to make herself famous and therefore needs to maintain that standard in order to maintain that fame. If you want to be valued based on what you do, you have to actually do something. If you want to be valued just for what you are, you're free to do that if you're a woman, but you actually don't get the added status of someone who does do something to earn their value. If you want sentimental just because value, that's fine. Women can do that. Men can't. That's another issue. But if you want the extra value that comes with fame and glory and riches beyond your wildest dreams, etc., that I'm afraid you will have to earn. And if you want to earn it, then you can't just say, I demand this because of my woman card. You can demand a lot of things by your woman card. But if you want to get ahead of the other women by having more skills, more status, and more power, you have to actually earn it. You're already well above men, any man, just by being a woman. But if you want to get above other women, you have to do more than other women, which means earning it. Moving on.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So first, let's talk about the comments that were happening. All right. Dragon Turtle. Women are often ones going after other women, yet it's men's fault somehow. That was at 10:11.
Yeah, because because women are helpless victims of the patriarchy. Therefore, society itself is men's fault somehow.
Okay. Because so many people will say, yes, this is a real problem. Well, aren't you going to do something about it? Me? Don't be ridiculous. It takes work, risk, and is uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm going to notice that this is a problem, but I'm not going to do anything to fix it.
Okay. Hello, Corona. I was listening. Brainstorm promised nothing. Lol. That was at 10:31. I can't remember what that was. Huh. And Giant Turtle, out of curiosity, do you view fame as a benefit or a cost? Um,
Both.
yeah, really, it is both. Like, there's ups, like with anything, there's up and down with anything.
That's why I framed it as a bargain, because on the one hand you get fame, but on the other hand you also get the consequences of fame. Everything has its price. If you want fame and glory, you can have fame and glory, but you are going to have to be tasked with maintaining that fame and glory. If you sell your soul for fame and glory, then that bargain can be struck, but the fame and the glory can sometimes be uh its own uh burden.
Yeah, but overall, I mean, yeah, net positive or negative.
I mean, it depends. It depends on the kind of person you are, how you get famous in the first place, why you're famous, and what you're famous for. Like um I imagine Einstein really enjoyed being famous for his physics theories and so on and so forth. And I imagine if he were still alive today and he knew that his name alone was a byword for intelligence and genius, he would be extremely flattered by that.
Mm.
If you're Kim Kardashian, on the other hand, who is just famous for being a human train wreck, I imagine that comes with quite a few more strings than Albert had to deal with.
Overall, me being the optimist, I'd say positive. Granted,
It also
I'm not
it
looking.
also depends on how you use it. Fame is like any other power. Having it is great, but if you use it to be a dick, cough cough Amber Heard, then it might come back to bite you in the ass.
Yeah.
But if you're a genuinely good person, like a Keanu Reeves or a Johnny Depp, then your life is probably going to be good because you are using your power good.
Anyway, this is something I wanted to cover.
Yeah.
It's from Gizmodo. I think it's .com. Yeah, .com. Gizmodo.com.au. No, fuck off. Ruby's first movie is a crossover with the Justice League. This is written by Justin Carter and published July 3rd, 2022. So for people who don't know, I am a fan. Well, I sort of was a fan of Rooster Teeth, which are like were an independent entertainment uh, entertainment I guess organization that 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 are responsible for like one of the longest the I think the longest running web series, Red versus Blue, and also a very popular 3D animation action series known as RWBY or RWBY. Um, and it was recently announced, obviously, like a week ago, that that uh, that they will be doing a crossover movie with the Justice League, which apparently will also be based on a comic that was made about a year ago of Ruby and Justice League. And I have some things to say about it because I'm not interested in this movie at all. But I'll get into it as we go on. So let's delve in, I guess.
Yep.
There have been no shortage of IP crossovers in recent years, particularly from Warner Brothers. Space Jam 2 was basically WB's crossover Comic-Con, and it doesn't appear that they'll be stopping anytime soon. On the game side, they've got Multiverses, where DC superheroes will fight alongside Cartoon Network and HBO characters in a Super Smash Bros. Alike. And come next year, they'll have another crossover movie to join the likes of Teen Titans Go / DC Superhero Girls and Batman TMNT.
I mean, the better crossover movie was Teen Titans Go meet Teen Titans. That was actually pretty good.
I haven't seen that. I don't really care. Well, I don't like Teen Titans Go, so anything with it,
Yeah, but they pretty heavily slanted it in favor of the original Teen Titans, which was nice.
Anyway, on Friday, Rooster Teeth at their annual RTX event announced that their young adult anime series, RWBY, will get its first feature film. RTX, by the way, is I haven't gone myself personally because I don't have the money to, because the company itself is based in Texas. It's effectively like their own convention. Rooster Teeth Expo, I think it's what it's supposed to be. So yeah. So yeah. Again, I'll get more into it. Based on the RWBY Justice League comic miniseries by if I say the name wrong, I'm sorry. Marguerite Bennett and Mirka Andolfo and Anek. I don't know. That released in 2021. The film of the same name will see the show's lead characters. Monster Slayers Ruby Rose, played by Lindsay Jones, Weiss Schnee, played by Cara Eberly, Blake Belladonna, played by Aaron Zek, and Yin Xiao Long, played by Barbara Dunkelman, cross paths with the Justice League, or rather, their universe's equivalent of the lead. Because the anime features half human, half animal people called Fauna, some of the DC characters will be reimagined with that in mind. Batman and Aquaman, for example, are respectively part bat and part fish in this universe, which mainly translates to having physical features to indicate as such. Otherwise, the heroes look roughly how you'd expect in a young adult science fantasy anime. Okay, so a few things. Okay, so Dragon Turtle. Used to love those two shows, but Red vs. Blue ended. It sort of ran out of stuff to do at that point. And the things I heard about RWBY, it started to go to shit a season or two after the creator died. Yeah, it really is unfortunate, Giant Turtle. So the thing I really have to say is, I had watched a video recently, and someone had pointed out that the recent season, season 9 of RWBY, has been on delay as because well, they proposed a theory. I don't know if this is actually true, but everything I've seen so far, it's evidence. It kind of seems that might actually be the case. Is that the animation team that works on RWBY, the series, and that's a whole can of worms because apparently there's like a lot of terrible things going on, overwork of animation, artist and stuff at that company. So yeah, I don't want to get into that, to be honest, because that's the whole thing I don't really know too much about per se.
Mm-hmm.
What I was gonna say is is that the guys who are also working on RWBY are also working on this film, and have been doing so since not entirely sure when. I would assume since 2020. And that makes sense because I believe they are going to make it in 3D animation. And I have, again, some gripes, and I will get into this when I finish this article because I just want to read the rest of it just so like we have full context and stuff. So, okay.
And I'm avoiding saying anything because this really is Brainstormer's section of the show.
Yeah. The RWBY Justice League crossover film is being handled by the same production team currently at work on the show's upcoming 9th season. Yeah, like I said, a first look at the new season, which I'm not going to click the link for just because I don't really want to talk about the show, to be honest, just because I haven't really been watching it since like the 5th or so season, kind of where I fell off. Has shown during the same panel that announced the crossover film. Both the film and new season will begin sometime next year. Right now, season 9 is said to be hitting early 2003, while RWBY JL doesn't have a specific release window. In the meantime,
2013, by the way. You said 2003.
Oh yeah, 2023. Sorry. In the meantime, fans of the show can watch the Ice Queendom anime over on Crunchyroll. Yeah, so that's also a thing. There's kind of a retelling show, an actual anime that was developed. So that's kind of cool, you know, something American being made into something. I think that's funny, honestly, you know, because not like a lot of not things like that happen often. So. It's intended on retelling the show's original 3 seasons that Rooster Teeth has created in tandem with Studio Shaft. Best known for Magia Record and March Comes in Like a Lion. Never heard of those, unfortunately. I've seen the art style of Studio Shaft before, but I've never really gotten into anything they've worked on, unfortunately. Its first episode, yeah, okay, just that. And that should be it. Okay, so like I said, I have a few things to really say, and I actually wrote this on a YouTube video that I watched talking about it that gave us information on it, and I have it right now on my phone, so it's just like I have the whole thing here. Honestly, I don't think this will be good. Mainly cheap cash grab. Because that does what it feels like, and that does also what it felt like with the comic, which I have done what Dalton does with movies and sort of pirated it or watched reviews of it. Mainly reviews of it and looked at images online. Although some people say it might be easier, even if they're taking inspiration from the comic crossover, it would be fairly easier to just make it like an interdimensional crossover film than actually putting the characters, But I don't know. I honestly don't know. I still think either way it's going to be bad because it could look amazing in terms of animation.
We're probably going to have to review it when it comes out because of this.
Yeah, let me pull up one image because I pulled up a lot of images for reference just so like I could talk here. This is the current animation for RWBY. It's 3D animation, and again, I don't. To be fair, I picked the latest, like one of the latest seasons, which their costumes, their designs are terrible in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because I speak as like a kind of character designer, as I've
Mm-hmm.
done that before in the past. So,
Wait, is the one in the red cape supposed to be Superman?
no, that's no. This is Ruby.
Oh, okay. I was confused because I'm like, wait, that doesn't seem like them at all. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, that's from the actual show, not the movie. I pulled
Okay,
this because that I assume this is the animation style they're going to use.
probably.
Because it's made by the same people, so they would be using the same stuff. Um, same equipment and resources
Mm-hmm.
in terms of animation. Uh, my issue is the the sh- is that it is kind of I wouldn't say cheaply made, especially now since they're bought out by Warner Brothers. I think.
Yeah,
Maybe, no, they were bought out by AT&T, and
and
I
then
think
and then AT&T bought Warner Brothers.
yeah. So
Yeah, but nevertheless, they're under the same banner now, which is why they can do the crossover in the first place.
um, the kind of thing that kind of bugs me is if anyone's to watch like the animation, and again, I'm not trying to slight the animators because they really work their asses off, but I'm also understanding that there is like a lot of like shit going on, like overworked employees and stuff, like overtime or not even overtime even.
Mm.
Also the writers, that's really where it kind of bothers me is like I don't think the writers are going to do a good job at portraying any character.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, like the comic was not good, and I have a couple images here. I just have to like. Uh, okay, this might be the longest part here. So, this is a cover for the comic. Um, and we did talk about this. We actually talked about the comic itself before.
I
Kind of
don't remember what number off the top of my head though
not off
of
the top
the
of my head,
podcast.
I don't remember either. But we talked about like it being released and stuff. And again, my kind of issue was really um, well, one thing. There's no effort put into the comic really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have another picture pulled up of an actual comic panel from the comic. That is a legit art panel from the actual comic.
I've literally seen better on DeviantArt.
Dude, yeah.
That's
It's almost like to be fair,
that's
there's
sad.
a lot of really amazing artists on DeviantArt that need to be like known, in my opinion.
They need to be hired instead of the people they're doing now because yeah.
And yeah, it's just I also like wanted to mention, and I'm gonna pull these up too. I just give me a minute. Is the character designs for the Justice League members? Um, and I did talk about them when we first talked about the comic before. I feel like I got to talk about them now if they're again like here's Superman, utter shit.
Mm.
I'm sorry, it's just like there's like for the record that my comment was longer just because I had other things to say, but I covered the first part. Um, Let me pull it up here so that I don't forget. the yeah, there's no effort put into it. You know,
Yeah,
that's
no.
my kind of biggest issue is that this is fairly like this is a cool concept. I would be totally on board, not just as like a fan of Ruby, but also a fan of um, DC. Like it's a cool concept, and honestly, and
You'd be a little bit more than on board considering you decided you could do it better.
I was actually gonna bring that up later when I got done talking about the designs.
Mm-hmm.
But my because here's the thing, the DC characters could work a lot better in Ruby, and I've read fan fictions. Yes, I read fan fictions. Sue me. They're actually good ones there.
I don't have a leg to stand on here. I have a Wattpad page just for the romantic gay stuff I like, and of
To be
course
there,
my addiction to
there's good
male
fan,
for male ASMR.
there's
So
really good fan fictions out there that are honestly better than mainstream stuff. Like fans do it better sometimes, you know.
yeah, they do.
But the thing I've seen is mostly people put Marvel characters in Ruby, and Ruby is more of a fantastical kind of
Yeah,
grander,
I think DC lends itself a little better than.
yeah, to the more fantastical elements of it. You know, yeah. Again, like, but this here, and I'm gonna pull up the Batman one because I think that is the most egregious design. Well, okay, maybe not the most egregious, but it's not good.
Mhm. What even?
He's supposed to be a ninja, you know? Yeah, okay, yeah, it is hard to find good fanfics, and I will be honest, it is hard to find like the good crossover ones. Giant Turtle.
Yeah, ASMR tends to actually be better for whatever reason.
Yeah. Yeah, and also my kind of yes, those are supposed to be bad ears. Kind of my biggest issue with this is again the lack of effort is because, and this actually kind of fairly because I've actually read like Batman fan fictions as well for Ruby, like crossover
Mhm.
ones, and they do the most lazy thing of making him a bat, like it's so obvious, you know.
Not to mention it makes the secret identity next to impossible to keep now.
Yeah, the secret identity, like it. That's what bugs me is like again, it's like they're doing the
Because if he were a normal guy who just dressed up like a bat faunus, that would be one thing. But since he's a bat faunus, that sort of narrows down
well. To be fair,
the pool of suspects for Batman, now, doesn't it?
they're not really superheroes here. You know, um, okay. Again, it's just like it's weird how like little effort is put in here because you'd think because and again I this is actually something I had seen like a comment made of not here like in our stream but a comment that was made that in a video I had seen talking about this is the that this crossover movie is technically the mainstream way of Ruby meeting to more broader audience, you know, DC fans, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if they're taking inspiration from this comic, which again is kind of shit, it's going to turn people off to Ruby.
Yep, not helping.
I think they're like supposed to be huntsmen and huntresses.
Hmm.
Yeah, they're not supposed to be like superheroes.
Hmm.
which I think is
maybe it's because I've become accustomed to your version of this, but that seems lame.
Yeah, we'll get into that again. I won't lie. And honestly, I wish I could have made a video of this because I came up with two great ideas. One is actually a Twitter thread. If you guys have Twitter, I made a Twitter thread like last year. It's pretty long actually, and I'll get into that idea. And I also have another idea that I'm currently working on, inspired by this idea.
And yes, I helped him with it. Not to toot my own horn here, but I did.
I feel like certain elements, if I didn't ask for your help, you bitch and whine at me.
I mean, you're not wrong, but still, fuck you.
All right. Okay, just give me a second because I want. Okay, not that one. Okay, this is one that I kind of. I don't even know if this character, because there's not really much mentioned of him in the comic, to my knowledge, because I haven't properly read it, to be completely honest, because I don't want to, because, again, but here's the Aquaman design, where he's not Atlantean, he's apparently, I believe, a dolphin faunus.
What the fuck is with his outfit? I'm sorry, I'm being a catty gay bitch again, but what the fuck?
It's, again, this is my issue. It's like, that looks so low effort, you know?
Okay, like, again, getting my inner queer eye here. Seriously, like, okay. What the fuck is with the, like, weird, like, pantaloon shape? Like, I either also have the shirt be extremely flamboyant in its turn to match the pant shape, or make the pants green slacks or something, so that their stylistic choices match. This is inherently imbalanced. You've got these like flamboyant, almost Bollywood-esque, like, green pantaloons, and then you've got just a normal shirt design afterwards. What the fuck?
Here's also my issue. Is he's technically supposed to be in the ocean, right? Swimmer and stuff.
You would think, yes, that makes sense.
This does not look like that. You know, like the pants, like you said, are a little too baggy, and like you would assume. I would assume that his costume or his suit
would be skin tight so that he can, swim in it.
Honestly, I kind of expected him not to have boots. Like, I know Aquaman wears boots, but I don't know. It's just like those don't know.
If he's swimming and wanting to be like hydrodynamic, yeah, and not to, again, being a catty gay bitch, but shouldn't he have a swimmer's body if he's regularly swimming and shit? That implies swimmer's body to me. But.
Okay, so this is completely off topic, but Johnny Turtle does raise a good question for you. Out of curiosity, did you go full queer eye on that X-Men fashion show a while ago? The Hellfire Gala thing, right?
I will send it to you, Dragon Turtle. I did. I don't think we did that. I don't think we talked about it on this stream, but we did talk. But we did do an episode on it on one of Englantine's streams. And yes, why? Just why?
Okay, I'm just gonna bring up a few more designs, just because I like torturing us for some reason.
To be fair, I do it regularly to you. It's only fair.
Cyborg. Because apparently, well, okay, I have no actually.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I have no actual issue with Cyborg being a member of the Justice League.
It doesn't make sense in a like quasi steampunk fantasy setting, really.
No, I mean there is.
Or if it does, it could have been designed better.
This just looks like an amalgamation. Like it looks low. Again, and low effort is my problem.
And again, just noticing this. Why are Cyborg's pants and Aquaman's pants almost the same style?
I'd say it's a RWBY thing, but honestly, I've never paid attention to the pants in RWBY.
I mean, maybe I'm erroneously applying the Queer Eye here, but what you wear tells people things about you. Having these two characters wear the exact same style of pants does not help distinguish their characters visually.
Yeah.
I mean, again, we're floating all the way from Queer Eye to what not to wear here, but
yeah.
not to toot my own horn, but I think I know a little bit about that shit, and thus what the actual hell designers of the comic and by extension the show or movie. If you want people to find your characters visually interesting, you have to make them visually interesting, please.
I will say this one's not bad. I will say that. I don't think this one's bad. I think art-wise, its proportions are a bit weird because it's based off of Jessica Cruz Green Lantern. Although I don't know how the fuck they have Green Lantern here.
Also, why is it Jessica Cruz and not any of the more marketable Green Lanterns?
Well, she's one of the newer Green Lanterns, so I think they were trying to get her out there.
Okay, fine, sure, that works.
I mean, again, she doesn't look
They're
bad.
probably gonna change it for the movie though,
right.
For marketing reasons.
Yeah,
probably gonna be Hal again.
Maybe. I think out of all the designs, hers is actually pretty cool. I wish there was a bit more green and not a lot of. I wish there was more like green highlights on the white. I don't know. It feels.
I think it's supposed to evoke like 19th century stockings, is what that's supposed to be doing there.
But that still doesn't explain why it's so white. You know, like you could have green highlights on that's a design thing. You know.
Yeah.
Like you could have there are literally lines I'm seeing here on
or you could just have them be a slightly lighter green to contrast.
No, Dragon Troll. I think during the New 52, he was made a member, like a core member of the Justice League.
Jessica, wasn't she Rebirth? I thought she was Rebirth.
No. He asked about Cyborg.
Oh, okay.
She's
yeah. Cyborg became a member of the League in the New 52.
Yeah.
Like many things that happened in the New 52.
And
I don't really mind one way or the other, although I kind of mind that they never even bothered to create a Titans team that was analogous to Glen Arakami's, even though everyone knows a lot of people first became familiar with the Titans from Glen Arakami's show.
Well, millennials at least.
But yeah.
Although I
millennials or probably Gen Xers too, because Teen Titans was one of those shows that if you were an adult and watched it, nobody judged you.
Yeah.
Because you shouldn't, but that's neither here nor there.
But the one that got the most, I think, even like was in the marketing the most, and I mentioned this. I don't think I ever really went in depth, but was the Wonder Woman design for the RWBY Justice League crossover.
Why is any of that?
It's okay. Again, that it's over designed is my issue. Like honestly, overall, like it doesn't look bad in terms of silhouette.
Her original design would work perfectly in this setting because it's already a fantasy. What? Also, it's not even her color scheme.
Well, red, blue, and I mean not gold, but like a bronze. I do like it's weird, like on the fact that it is super over designed. I think that's my issue.
And the colors are too understated. This would be a perfect time to get away with some over the top colors.
Yeah, it's weird, like because that like in the early seasons of RWBY, there were a lot of like characters were born with like. Green.
I mean, it's called RWBY. It's all about color ultimately.
Yeah, like, that's a whole thing. Like people had like were born with like really green hair or blue hair or red hair, purple hair. You know, like it's a weird thing that they've kind of gone away with in recently, which I find weird.
It's called RWBY, and it's supposed to be an acronym for the colors of the rainbow. What the hell are you doing, guys?
Yeah. Plus, there's also like a role that every name has to either resemble, be referenced to, or be a color.
Mm-hmm.
Which I have actually tried to do as best I can in terms of the project I'm working on. It's been incredibly difficult because I have had to look up so many different names for colors and stuff.
He's good at it though. It's good.
Yeah.
He's good at names.
Okay. I have some other images. But that okay. So before we get to that, yeah, it's weird to me on the designs of it because they just don't. Again, like it feels very low effort, and I'm kind of worried that's what they're going to take inspiration that they're taking inspiration from. You know?
Yeah, I'm one frayed nerve away from doing the annoying snapping and head bobbing thing. I just you're bringing out my inner stereotypically gay person artist, and that's not good.
Right. And okay, so I don't like. Here's the thing: is that the fucking storyline, which it was a mini series, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what the fuck it's about because it's so fucking. I think all over the place. Again, full disclosure: I haven't read it because I didn't really care to, but I've looked into it as best I can through images and stuff and reviews.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bad story. Like I think it had Starro in it, but
Okay, what did they do to Starro?
no, they had just Starro. Like he's just in there for some fucking reason.
Why?
Yeah, like they put these characters, and here's the thing: they don't change these characters really. They don't. They keep the characters' names. They don't, and these characters are supposed to be living in this world. So you'd think
A
that they're
world where everybody has color-based names.
yeah,
Pretty much.
yeah. That's weird, right? Like, and don't get me wrong. I've seen fan fictions that do that
Like
too.
Ruby isn't even my thing, and already I'm like, you've violated the basic premise of your own goddamn
Right.
concept.
Yeah, again, they're just shoehorning these characters in and expecting them to work without putting in any of the fucking work.
And again, yours was better. And I'm not just saying that because I helped make it, but
Right.
yours was better.
Okay, so, but I also kind of want to bring up the animation because I did bring it up earlier, and I had some images because we legitimately talked about a movie on Thursday because again the whole me being sick thing.
Mm-hmm.
Of the Super Sons trailer that we talked about. And I really like that art style because it is 3D, but it is super stylized. It's almost
and it resembles hand drawn almost, yeah.
Yeah, and it honestly kind of made me think of Ruby a bit and how I would kind of want them to take inspiration from this in terms of making the Ruby Justice League crossover movie. Hold on. Trying to tell it's part of the inevitable push to tone down anything weird or fantastical, since I still think most people prefer something that could happen IRL, like a Friends or Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yeah, but the problem with that mindset is it's a straw man of reality. Reality does contain weird shit.
Yeah. How the fuck was I going with this? Right. I honestly kind of wish Ruby had taken more inspiration from like kind of this. Granted, again, they were the ones. They started using a different engine for their animation, like computer generation, a different type of what's the word? Style animation style for it, and
art style.
Yeah, art. Well, no. I mean, art style was kind of similar. It's just it was a different type of what's the word? I'm trying to think of it. Animation, form of animation. I mean, it was still 3D, but it was more, I guess, not realistic, but more. I would have to look up images just so I could point it out. So I'll do that as I'm talking. But this is kind of like, okay, the thing with Super Sons, and I'm gonna point out, get a still image from the trailer as well. Is that this looks like a 3D animated comic book? You know, like you got colors that pop and stuff, and you know, almost cell shaded is what I was going to say. And that again, that's kind of what I would think they would want to do for the RWBY show, not the RWBY show, but the RWBY Justice League
crossover.
Yeah, the crossover movie. And obviously, I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to just keep in line with the more TV show, with the show's animation style, which is fine. I don't think it's as dynamic or as cinematic as this looks, unfortunately. But then again, I'm not. I feel like I'm kind of what's the word? Being a bit too judgy, as this was probably in production as the same with the RWBY Justice League one, or might have been a little after they started production on that movie. But I'm just wondering what the quality will be, and I'm kind of worried that's not going to be as good as I think it could be. You know, because almost sort of either that or they could have done 2D animation, which I'm sure is cheaper and also could be a little more what's the word? Dynamic in terms of their filmmaking and stuff. You know, so that's kind of my thing with that. And on the technical kind of side of it. And speaking of RWBY, I'm sorry. I'm trying to look up images just so like I have something to show you the difference of how it is and where it is now. Just give me a second. Okay. I'm sorry, like I'm sorry I'm taking so much time here. I have a lot to say on this.
Take your time. I do this too.
Right. Okay.
Although we might have to end the show after this because
yeah, I kind of figured that too. But okay, just so like we have the difference in animation style. So this obviously is like and this one I showed earlier. You know, this is the animation style for like the later seasons, like volume 4 to currently, I believe, 9. And to show the difference, granted, they were still developing stuff and working on it in the early seasons. Like, you know, they were like, again, they were kind of making it on a shoestring budget. So they were, you know, so I'm a little lenient on that stuff because it was more so about the passion behind the project that you could feel.
Yep.
So, and I'm also picking like what I consider to be the best out of the first 3 seasons because I think they kind of put a little more. There was a lot more effort in terms of.
It's a shame when they had the effort, they didn't have the resources, and when they finally had the resources, the effort was gone.
I guess one that was bigger. But yeah, that is from the, season 3, where it looks a little more cartoon. I'm gonna look up a better image. I'm sorry, I thought it was bigger.
Yeah, it's not. I can't see anything.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay. Okay, there we go. That is a still from the intro image. So, I mean, they still use the same assets and stuff. Yeah, so it's actually the same 4 characters that you'd seen prior. They just did a redesign of the characters and got them new outfits. They do that. They do that every couple of seasons, or every couple every couple of seasons.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, this is where like in terms of animation, they like the art style. It was more like they did try to emulate kind of 2D a bit, while also still keeping like 3D. That was mainly because the original creator, Montium, I believe, was more versed in actually 3D animation and was actually more of a fight director. And his action scenes were amazing, by the way. I will not deny that, and I hope because that's also a thing with RWBY is it is primarily an action series.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have delved more into storytelling to varying degrees of success, and yeah, so the one I had shown previously, that more blocky kind of art style, is the one I kind of assume they're going to use. I just hope they put a little more effort into it than they have with the show. And I'm not saying that they don't put effort in the show. I'm just, it's a movie, you know, so the quality kind of has to be a little better than a show.
Yeah.
So, so as Don liked to mention previously, I had actually come up with a few ideas on how to actually make this crossover idea work. Granted, the first one was a more kind of generalized idea of like, okay, Justice League travels the multiverse to Remnant, to RWBY, to the universe of RWBY. And again, there is like a whole thread on Twitter that I made that detailed like everything, like from the characters to the story itself and character dynamic. Because honestly, to me, that's kind of the biggest thing for a crossover. Is like the dynamics between characters and how they'll interact. I don't know if that's the same for like others, so feel free to tell me if that's what you look for in a crossover or not. So yeah, that idea was basically it revolved around. I'm just giving cliff notes here. Felix Faust, a mystical villain from DC, traveled to Remnant Universe to use their magic for his own nefarious ends, and he ends up teaming with the villain of RWBY, Salem, and the Justice League. Oh, and it's not the Justice League that was pitched here. It's actually a completely different version of the Justice League that I had handpicked for better character dynamics between the characters of RWBY. So, I mean, obviously you got like the standards, which is like Superman and Wonder Woman, as they are staples in there. But I didn't do Batman. I actually did Nightwing. And that was actually, for that dynamic, it was actually supposed to be him and Blake, because they had similar upbringings with 2 mentors that went down dark paths that they couldn't follow. And so, yeah. Again, if you want the full description, it's on Twitter. If I try to go like full in depth here, we'll be here all night. So, then Green Arrow, that was actually supposed to be with Weiss, and they were like they're both 2 rich, Heidi-toity people. Well, that want to try to like be
hoity-toity, but yeah.
Whatever. Dragon Control, I've never ranked this before, but I'd say dynamics are fairly high up there. Also, how it crosses over. I always prefer separate things coming together rather than having one always in the other. And I believe he's writing something else. So, yeah. Who else was? Oh, Shining Knight. If anyone knows Shining Knight, good for you. That was for the like some of the secondary characters, like Jean Arc, who was kind of like an everyman character in RWBY, and supposed to. There's a whole thing. Dr. Fate was also there as well, because magical villain. I kind of assume that could cause problems for on a multiversal scale. So Dr. Fate just kind of seemed logical to put there.
Mm-hmm.
Black Canary as well, just because I kind of figured she and Green Arrow were kind of a what's the word?
Item.
Well, that, and also they're kind of a package deal. Oh, and just translating to fit, example, preferring what you are talking about, them universe hopping rather than they are doing it. They are just huntsmen in the universe, loosely based on the heroes. Okay, that's fair. That's completely fair. Personally, I could take either or. I think, again, it more depends on the effort put in, and I'll get to that.
And whether it works in the universe or not.
Yeah, whether it works in the universe. Yeah, like, honestly, it was pretty bearable. It was pretty usual, like, kind of superhero crossover thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
For my first idea. And then in the last few months or so, I've recently kind of started to work on placing these characters in RWBY as part of the world. They are still superheroes. In RWBY, and honestly, I kind of wanted. And here's the thing: I'm not doing Justice League. I'm actually doing a Justice Society, because the world of RWBY kind of has a more what's the word? I mean, it has science fiction stuff in it, but it's also like kind of a not steampunkish, but some areas of
Art Deco.
Yes and no. Kind of just an early like 1920s, 30s style to it. Like some of the cars I've seen and stuff.
Gilded Age.
Yeah, a Gilded Age kind of deal. And that's why I kind of decided, Justice Society would make more sense. Granted, I'm not doing Justice Society bit for bit. I'm doing characters like Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. Very different characters in terms of.
Although, to be fair, the Golden Age, Superman, and Batman, and I think even the Wonder Woman were in the original Justice Society. If I remember correctly.
I think they were members, but I don't think they were part of the initial lineup.
No.
So that's
originally it was
Dr. Fate,
Wesley Dobbs, Sandman, Hourman, Atom Smasher, I think.
Dollman.
No, I don't think he was in, at least not early on. Dr. Fate, Black Cat, or not Black Cat, but Wildcat. And Alan Scott Green Lantern, I think, were the original set. I think.
Okay, hold on. I want to look it up just.
But I know Dr. Fate was in the original Justice Society.
Okay, the original members of the Justice Society of America were Dr. Fate, Hourman, Spectre, Sandman, Atom, Flash, Green Lantern, and Hawkman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, again, they have advanced technology like airships, drone soldiers, cybernetics, and smartphones. But I agree that a lot of it is in that style. Yeah. So, see, the hardest part is kind of figuring out, okay, how do I do these ideas? How do I I'm trying to keep the core of the characters, which I think I've done rather well, not to toot my own horn.
I can confirm,
Yeah,
despite his modesty, he did a good job.
yeah.
Although I did help him with it in places, especially with the Doctor Fate.
Yeah, I have a Dr. Fate one, and I'm not actually. You know what? I'm going to talk about this idea. I'm not going to talk about like the full idea of the concept of the character and stuff, but
Because thieves.
yeah, I don't. But the Helm of Fate in this iteration, it is actually a prototype, and anyone who is a fan of Ruby, you'll get this. It is a prototype of the Relic of Knowledge that was created by the God of Light in Ruby. Um, and if it also, if you're, I won't lie, I took a lot of inspiration from the Smallville version of Doctor Fate in terms of powers and the kind of burden of that helmet. Also, some inspiration from maybe MCU Doctor Strange a bit. I don't want to get that. I'll leave that there for you to more interpret and theorize.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to like talk too much about that, but
go on.
Well, no, I just don't want people trying to steal it. So
right, but go forward.
Also Wonder Woman, because it was honestly a pretty obvious idea to me, because it's an idea that's been it's a concept, and that's also a thing. I'm also taking concepts from the show that have never really been expounded on or brought up. Like I think fans of Ruby can agree that the world building in Ruby is not the greatest. So I've done kind of retroactive retcons and rewrites, kind of my own interpretation of things in order to make it work for my kind of DC in Ruby, as I have it called. And the thing with Wonder Woman, because again, it just seems so obvious to me, is that she is a silver-eyed warrior. And I am actually trying to work on what the fuck that actually means, because they don't tell anything with that concept in the show.
Yeah, and for the record, Brainstormer has been filling me in on this as he's been writing it on our Thursday hangout days. And every time he brings up a piece of world building that never gets expounded upon, I cringe internally, because you guys know how fastidious I am about world building. And the idea that you can set up all of these Chekhov's guns and not use any of them, it makes something in my brain die every time I think about it.
Or if they do fire the gun, so to speak, they don't do it in a way that makes sense or is satisfying. Use a lot of technology, seems based on the substance used for magic, so there is also that. Yeah. Dust, which is kind of the oil of Ruby. Yeah, I'll be honest. Like the hardest to write for so far has been the Green Lantern. I'm not going to get too much into that because I did want to keep him, but I will say this: the character is more based off of Alan Scott Green Lantern. That specifically,
i.e., the Golden Age Green Lantern, not the Space Cop Green Lantern.
Yeah. Wait, you guys normally just sit around and world build?
That does sometimes that is sometimes how it works. It's either for his ideas like this or for our shared comic book ideas that we're working on.
Yeah. But yeah, like I've done my best to try to like keep concepts and again general cores of certain characters to work in this idea, and I honestly hope I can make it like a fan fiction series of this.
And if not, we can always adapt it into yet another comic book idea.
Yeah, but I don't know. I kind of like it how it is, like as like a crossover idea.
I know. I'm just throwing it out there. Even if you can't work it into a fan fiction somehow, assuming that things with the Lionhearted and with Avarice works out and Paragon Pantheon, then we will be in relative demand among the indie comic scene, and therefore we can swing this if you need to swing it.
Fair enough. But yeah, okay. So again, kind of try to roll it back here. Like putting these characters into the world of RWBY and not just shoehorn them in. As I've said, it is difficult for me because it's mainly one, I'm not just making full original characters for them. I'm actually also trying to incorporate certain characters from the actual canon to be these superheroes, which I know is weird. Don't get me wrong. I'm fully aware of that. And some of you might be looking at me like I'm crazy.
It sounds worse in the way he's describing it than it actually is. He's doing that thing where he doesn't give himself enough credit again.
Yeah, we'll give you links to the projects when we do make it. So
yeah, all things considered, it'll probably our comic ideas will probably end up being published by Iconic Comics because I've spoken to Tim Lim about it and he seems to think there's a good chance.
Right. We're not there yet. We're still trying to build a lot of stuff.
We're still working on the series Bible basically.
Yeah.
So that when we do it, it was in an orderly fashion.
Right, but yeah, it's like again, it is actually fairly easy as I have literally done it and I'm still doing it. Like it's taking me a while because I have to like really figure out the minute details of this. Like these concepts and ideas and how to make them work. But you can have characters exist in a universe. And to be fair, this would be like an AU of RWBY plus a crossover thing.
Although, given that some of the world building is actually better than the original, I'm not even calling it an AU. This is canon until they make it otherwise.
Right.
Because I can do that.
Yeah. But yeah, really, again, what matters is the effort you put into the project. And again, my major issue with the RWBY Justice League crossover overall, even like both, okay, I don't want to say the movie, but like the comic itself, everything I've gathered from it, it is very much just a cash grab. You know, it's cheap. It's not. There's no thought really put into it. It's just throw up DC stuff into the world of RWBY and see if it sticks.
Because reasons, basically.
Yeah, and that is my issue. That's my problem. And it like clearly, as I've demonstrated, and Dolan again can attest to this. And I don't want to like talk too much about these ideas just because I don't want people trying to steal them. You can make the characters work in the world. It's not that hard. You just have to be willing to put in the work, which honestly,
and or know enough about the settings.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I had it like full disclosure. I have had to put so much. I've had to put so much time into actually researching RWBY and DC stuff, and I think that's actually like the major thing is like I don't think anyone has done research.
This is why he asked me to weigh in on the Dr. Fate one because he was like, "You know things about Dr. Fate, so help me make this character work in this universe." Like,
yeah.
Okay.
And full disclosure, he's like my favorite character to write for, in terms of like actually plotting out the character and stuff.
Which, as you can imagine, has resulted in many "I told you so"s.
Yeah. But yeah, like other than that, like again, I can't even say I'm cautiously optimistic as I usually am for this project. In terms of what I mean in terms of project, I mean like the RWBY Justice League crossover movie. Because I don't think it's going to be good, unfortunately. And like as a fan of both properties, I would have been so fucking.
That shouldn't be how you feel.
No, like I should be fucking jumping over the moon, like the cow. You know, I should be like one of those guys at a football game, or I mean football as in like soccer. Going nuts and like ripping my shirt off and like flagging it around the, swinging around in the air, cheering like a madman. But I'm not.
Sorry, that mental image was just very funny.
Right. But yeah, like I'm
Not
not.
that I would know anything about jumping, but.
But yeah, like I'm not really. Yeah, I'm not really ecstatic in any form or fashion of this, which is sad,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Also, other project update. I am also working on a fan fiction rewrite of. I guess it's for Dragon Turtle because he is also a fan of Red versus Blue. Uh, I'm actually working on a Red versus Blue Zero rewrite. You can actually check out the general ideas I have in a video that I made like a year ago on my other channel, the Brainstormer Pop Culture. It's actually the last video I did on the on my channel because I don't have like the editing software anymore to do videos, unfortunately. Um, so yeah, until maybe like I get a new phone or something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, besides that, I don't really have anything else to say. So with that, folks, I want to say goodbye, adios, aloha, auf Wiedersehen, sayonara, peace, cheers, and
Shalom, but fuck off to lazy world building.